Marvel. The devastation of natural disasters begins. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76 Story of a Small Town. Lost. 10,000 vampire compatriots, along with the city, perished under the meteorite. The scene was very tragic and the death was terrible. No, it must be said that when the sun rose, there were not a few vampire corpses left. Under Tang Feng's calamity, under the sun, not even the dregs remained. Hearing this bad news, Dickon Firth did not recover for a long time. His face was very pale, his body and mind were trembling, and he was afraid of Tang Feng's powerful power. The rest of the remaining three elders were also extremely frightened. Like mice, the grass and trees were all dead, and even if they hid well, if there was a slight movement, they were shocked and moved quickly. Facing Tang Feng's powerful power, they were very frightened and helpless. 10,000 vampires and the powerful dark magic they had prepared were already the strongest means they could think of. There is nothing that can be done about this Tang Feng, and there is nothing else that can be done. What can be done? Tang Feng is still searching for the most important vampire gathering places in 890, destroying them one by one, and killing all the vampires one by one. Can't resist. Just like a small country was invaded by a large country, there is no resistance and can only be allowed to knead and collapse. In such a desperate situation for vampires, do you want to give up? No. Dickon Firth stood up and said firmly, no. He also had a way to deal with it. He automatically contacted Colonel Stryker, asked for weapons, asked for cooperation, and dealt with Tang Feng together. Colonel Stryker smiled grimly, as he expected. He finally contacted him again to seek cooperation. He definitely nodded. Okay, during this period of time, you must use every means to attract Tang Feng's attention. Try to gather your subordinates and hide if you can. If you can't hide, if you are discovered, then resist. 35 No matter how strong that red demon is, we vampires are not easy to bully, and we have to bite him before we die. 35 After instructing the three elders through the video, Dickon Firth cut off contact and began to gather his men to secretly act to attack Daywalker. As long as he obtains Daywalker's blood, plus the precious blood voluntarily donated by the three elders, plus some preparations, he is confident that the plan will succeed and he will become a blood god. At that time, he believed that he could definitely compete with Tang Feng, and he was full of confidence in the power of the blood god. It was also because they faced Tang Feng's threat that they were able to join hands. The three elders happily agreed to donate their blood, so that Dickon's plan would be successful. Firth could be successfully implemented. Tang Feng did not know about Dickon's secret plan. Firth carried on. It was still day after day, like a job, to find the vampire's gathering point and destroy them. No matter how much the vampire begged and pleaded for mercy before dying, he never let him go. While Dickon Firth and the elders would not let go for a day and surrender to him, they promised not to attack Lisa from now on. Well, he would not stop killing. 3 months is the time for Tang Feng to give life to vampires, and this is his last mercy. If the vampire insists on not surrendering and seeks to perish, don't blame him for being cruel. A month and a half has passed, and Tang Feng doesn't know how many vampires he has killed or how many gathering places he has destroyed. On his way to the next gathering place, he sighed inexplicably. Linger, the White Queen, and the three sparkling daughters all gave him an inexplicable glance, but they all remained silent. These days, they followed Tang Feng and killed many vampires, and they were all soft-hearted. As for the stubbornness of vampires, no matter how many people are killed, as long as their clan is not exterminated, they will be stubborn and will not give up, and they are completely helpless. They don't know, if they keep killing, when will it end? It is also clear that although the vampire will collapse at Tang Feng's touch, it will not easily exterminate the clan. Killing like this is not the solution. They couldn't think of how to solve Lisa's problems, and thought that Tang Feng had the same idea, so they sighed. They all thought wrong. Tang Feng was just sighing pity for the vampire family. Even the damn vampire clan, Tang Feng didn't want to exterminate them so casually. He had seen many movies starring vampires and also had some good impressions. He also knew that some vampires were not all bad. Between vampires and humans, there is a constant connection between scissors. Between vampires and humans, the love that can be seen and heard has been constantly happening. If this Marvel world really lacks the vampire family, it will really make Tang Feng feel that something is missing. Therefore, he signed for the vampire. Why are there so many idiots in the world who want to kill themselves? I hope I don't use any means to destroy your clan. 1.5 months to go. Tang Feng thought to himself as he followed Blink out of the spatial passage, looked around, narrowed his eyes slightly, and restrained his distracting thoughts. The slaughter was about to begin again. Linger, Twinkle, White Queen, don't follow me this time. Find a place to hide and wait for me. Good boy. Not only 20,000 or 30,000 vampires gathered, but also all kinds of powerful weapons, gunships, tanks. It's a grand scene that really surprised me. 0.55 When Tang Feng released the detection domain, he couldn't help but burst out in surprise, which really surprised him. Those who don't know, think that a war is about to break out. Damn, gunships, tanks. These weapons, even the power of the vampire clan, are hard to come by, and only the military has them. At the gathering place that was destroyed a few days ago, those vampires also took a lot of powerful weapons and guns, and thought they bought them through their own connections and channels. It seems that I was wrong. The military and vampires must have cooperated to deal with you together. If I'm not mistaken, it's Colonel Stryker again. The White Queen scolded and analyzed. It should be correct. I heard the Black Queen say before that she has almost destroyed Colonel Stryker's research base. Stryker, and if there are any remnants left, there are at most 1 or 2 research bases. 35 I guess Colonel Stryker must have hated me. Tang Feng said and smiled. It was very refreshing. Colonel Stryker's misfortune was his pleasure. Not much to say, knowing that there is a big battle ahead waiting for Tang Feng. The 3 girls also know the interest and do not keep up. All they can do is bless. Tang Feng waved his hand back easily, indicating that he did not need to care about him. He raised his foot and walked towards the vampire gathering place. At this time, it is the afternoon. The location is in the northern hemisphere, an ancient city with ruined walls. The weather was cold at 4.7, with strong winds and light snow. Above the sky, there is no sun shining, only layers of dark clouds. In this environment, even a vampire who is afraid of the sun can come out bravely and confidently. As Tang Feng approached the small town, what he saw was a large number of vampires, holding various weapons, either sniper rifles, or machine guns, or Vulcan cannons, or automatic rifles, or rocket launchers, or was waiting for him to enter the shooting range engulfed in fire. At this regard, Tang Feng smiled, accelerated without hesitation, rushed forward. The force of disaster surrounded him, condensed into a circle, and firmly protected him. Like a dark red ominous meteor, rushing straight towards the small town. Chapter 77 The Lord of the Planet. Ready, fire. 35 degrees to the right, fire. 35 take off, aim and fire. 99 prepare the grenade, throw it. Come on, what the fuck, you're a vampire, don't walk slowly like a human, just shoot me. In an instant, the sound of artillery roared incessantly, machine guns, automatic rifles, and all kinds of guns and weapons were constantly rattling, and choking smoke filled the air. The gunship helicopters flew high into the sky and kept firing with large machine guns. The tank raised its cannon, turned to aim, hit again, and continuously fired shells. People who didn't know the situation thought that there was a war between 2 armies here. In fact, this is a war between 20,000 or 30,000 vampires, armed with various weapons and fully equipped, against one person. Tang Feng alone launched a fearless charge, being hit by a cannonball again. Although the calamity was blocked, the uneven road that was bombarded by the cannonball made Tang Feng's steps unstable, and he quickly stopped to stabilize his body. Only 09 the vampire stopped for a moment and was hit by a large amount of artillery fire. The rumbling sound continued, and for a while, Dust and gunpowder smoke enveloped Tang Feng's figure, and the surrounding ground turned into a honeycomb, densely packed with pits of different file sizes. "Are you injured?" Since they could no longer see the target, the vampires temporarily stopped their attacks, meditated in their hearts, looked ahead with anticipation in their eyes, and tried their best to look towards the place where the smoke and dust were filled with gunpowder smoke. Even if they saw Tang Feng being hit by so many shells, bullets, they knew that they could not kill Tang Feng, and it would be good to be injured. In the end, a dark red meteor rushed out of the smoke, and the speed did not slow down, and Tang Feng's situation could not be seen, which disappointed the vampires. They continued to attack. What an obstructive weapon! Tang Feng held a calamity shield and rushed towards the small town under fire, while saying that he was unhappy. So many projectiles blocked. Even if it still couldn't hurt him, it still hindered his movement. Trouble, really trouble. Just stick together and let him kill them. Why resist? Tang Feng thought sadly, as he approached the small town and was bombarded by more and more projectiles. He felt the pressure and couldn't help but strengthen the disaster shield. After these days of fighting, I have seen Charles and Magneto Eric respectively, and I have also figured out the various levels and powers of mutant. Tang Feng already had a clear understanding of the power classification, and he also used his own understanding to divide each level of power and what level of enemies it could fight against. Below the fourth level, it is collectively known as the Transcendent. Captain M, Black Widow, Spider-Man, including all the third level, second level, and first level mutants, belong to the superhuman column. It's just that the strength is strong and weak, and the strong can fight against a fully armed army of 100 or 1,000 people. The weak can't even beat ordinary people, and the weak are pitiful. The strongest transcendents can withstand ordinary shells and missiles. It is worth mentioning that Tony Stark, an ordinary person, can fight against various powerful enemies with his steel battlesuit, which is quite admirable. His strength is also due to the steel battlesuit, which fluctuates up and down and cannot be accurately graded. Above the extraordinary is the overlord of the planet. As the name suggests, it is the overlord-level powerhouse who can run wild on a planet. Only by targeting its weaknesses can it be defeated. Or use destructive weapons such as nuclear bombs to defeat the overlord powerhouse of the planet head-on. Tang Feng, Magneto Eric, and Charles are the fourth-tier level, and they are also the level belonging to the overlord of the planet. The ordinary Hulk, Thor, is also a planet overlord. Those who are more powerful than planetary hegemons are called cosmic hegemons. They can run riot in the universe, do whatever they want, and can establish a powerful force that runs through the universe. If it is mutant, it is 5 levels. In Tang Feng's mind, Ancient One, Odin, Thanos are all at this level. If it is a powerhouse that surpasses the overlord of the universe, Tang Feng is called the true god. After collecting 6 Thanos Infinity Gems, half of the life in the universe will be destroyed with a snap of his fingers, and his strength will reach the level of a true god. However, because he borrowed the power of the Infinity Gems, he borrowed external force, and his own strength did not reach it, so he could only be considered a false god. As for the level above the true god, Tang Feng will not consider it for the time being. Without reaching that level, without that vision, from the perspective of a frog at the bottom of the well, trying to judge the power above the true god will only make people laugh. Having said that, Tang Feng suppressed his distracting thoughts, because he knew exactly what level of strength he was at, which was why he acted so recklessly. No matter how many people there are, no matter how powerful the weapons are, if there are no non-conventional weapons like nuclear bombs, they really don't care. They can't threaten him at all. Just after thinking about it with confidence, Tang Feng's footsteps stopped, his hair stood up, and he felt a dangerous atmosphere very unexpectedly. The roar of the guns suddenly stopped, and the entire battlefield seemed to fall silent. The eyes of the vampires looked at Tang Feng's ground expectantly. Tang Feng had a premonition that something was wrong, and when he looked down, his pupils shrank and he saw the ground arching, cracking, and flames bursting out, as if an earth dragon had turned over. A devastating disaster occurred. This was a premeditated ambush. Through the blockade on the bright side, it attracted Tang Feng's attention. In fact, Mines had already been laid in advance on his only path. Knowing Tang Feng's strength clearly, the landmines and explosives he buried definitely added a lot of materials. Hearing a loud bang, the earth trembled, and even the small town 100 or 200 meters away was affected. The city wall shook violently, and some collapsed. The vampire who hid in the city wall in time was also pale and crouched with his head in fright. After a long time, when the explosions stopped, vampires came out one after another from the city wall. They stretched their heads and looked into the distance, their mouths wide open. I saw that a large, deep pit appeared where Tang Feng was. Groundwater is surging from the bottom of pit 890. Did you die? All the vampires look at each other and talk to each other with excitement. God is pitiful. For Tang Feng, the Red Devil, all vampires fear death. If it wasn't for the fact that there was no way out, if it wasn't for Lisa being too important, they wouldn't want to fight Tang Feng and would refuse to give up. After waiting for a few minutes, Tang Feng still didn't appear. Ha ha ha, he must be dead. He's finally dead. Ha ha ha. Woo woo woo. 35 A vampire burst into laughter and tears. The surrounding vampires felt the same way. Their eyes turned red, and they were so excited that they would be drugged. The surprise happened in the next moment. The scorching hot sunlight suddenly shone. One by one, the vampires were shocked by the sunlight. They screamed on the spot, smoked and ignited, followed by charred corpses, and finally turned into ashes. Everyone hurry up and hide. Oh my God, be careful everyone, the devil is above. The vampire looked for a dark corner in horror and hid. Some vampires raised their heads subconsciously due to the sudden change and looked straight at the sun. Before they died, they also found a figure in the sky. Chapter 78. At the moment of the explosion, Tang Feng's heart was shaken, and he simply used the impact of the explosion, coupled with the jet of catastrophe, to soar into the sky. At that moment, I felt as if I had a missile launcher installed under my feet. Fortunately, the power of the explosion was not enough to break through the protection of the disaster, but it only made him feel like he was standing on the spring and his feet were under pressure. Once in the sky, looking down, the panorama of the small town comes into view, and the vampires turn into small black dots, avoiding the gunships and tanks in the distance. Like a small toy, the calamity boiled violently out of the body, offsetting the magnetic field of the planet, so that Tang Feng floated high in the sky and did not fall. He looked up at the dark cloud that seemed to be close at hand, the corners of his mouth raised, and he gathered all the power of calamity that could be used so far in his hands, aimed at the center of the dark cloud, and released it. Then, just like the Kigon cannon in Dragon Ball, a thick dark red beam of light fiercely tore the dark cloud into a big mouth, and the sunlight behind could finally shine through. The calamity continued to rush upwards, causing the ripples that stirred the atmosphere to continue, showing a vortex shape. If it weren't for Tang Feng's subconscious retreat, the calamity was unraveled and no longer maintained. It might have broken through the atmosphere. Feeling the warmth of the sun, he stretched out his hands to the sides and squinted his eyes to enjoy it. It was really comfortable to be able to enjoy the sunshine in the cold weather. Relative to their comfort, the vampire is facing extinction, because they didn't expect it. Many vampires suddenly died. When they found a dark place to hide in horror, the number had been reduced by 1/5. This is an astonishing number of casualties. Even so, the vampire disaster is not over yet. It's just testing their power, although it's not really a solar storm. Tang Feng squinted at the sun and suddenly had an idea. In terms of lethality and restraint, the power of a solar storm is better than a meteorite. Thinking about it, he took a deep breath and chose to borrow the power of the solar storm. At this moment, my mind sank into the power of the solar storm, as if witnessing the powerful power of the solar storm, and after it, I experienced shocking scenes one by one. The so-called solar storm, according to human scientists, is a high-speed particle flow caused by the sun's magnetic field, which will cause damage to various instruments, destroy the ozone layer, and cause harm to the human body. In the future, the Fantastic Four will appear, just because they encountered a solar storm, which affected their bodies and transformed their genes. Instead, They became a blessing in disguise and became superpowers with powerful powers. This seems to be the power of the solar storm, working. In fact, the real solar storm is one that can absorb all the energy and eventually form a storm disaster that can destroy the entire universe. That is, the solar storm, also called the energy storm. It is a natural disaster. It may be a natural disaster of a planet, or it may be a natural disaster of a universe. No matter what level of worldview you're at, it is a natural disaster that destroys everything. So it is qualified to be called a natural disaster. A natural disaster is a conceptual force. Tang Feng sighed and opened his eyes, thinking too far ahead. The power of natural disasters is infinite, but his ability to use the power of natural disasters is limited. If you want to play an infinitely powerful natural disaster, work hard, boy. It will be achieved one day, he thought. His eyes fixed, he lowered his head and looked down, borrowing the power of the solar storm to cast a disaster. Solar storm. The disaster he released did not have any superfluous names. It was also called a solar storm. As he raised his hands high, he violently brought it down, as if it were a group of invisible energy. Behind him, the sun's rays suddenly became brighter, and in the distance in the sky, the wave condensed by the scorching sun's rays rose in rouse, sweeping straight towards the small town. Knowing the weakness of vampires, according to the characteristics of the solar storm, Tang Feng deliberately condensed a kind of energy, that is, the scorching sun's rays. Vampires will die just by being irradiated by the sun, let alone being directly swept away by the sun's rays. They are completely desperate and dead. Moreover, the sun's rays condensed in a solar storm are all energy particles, and they are swept away like a sharp cutter, which can shred everything and have the heat to melt everything. Under Tang Feng's distant gaze, the crimson solar storm swept across the entire small town, quickly spread out and quickly dissipated. Due to the heat of the sun's rays, it was once destroyed, and the ruined small town caused a fire again. Depending on the situation, the entire small town will be completely burned down. Not all vampires survived by chance. No matter where they hide, even if they hide in the basement, the invisible solar storm can sweep the entire place. With just one wave of your hand, thousands of troops will be wiped out. Tang Feng was full of excitement and pride. At this moment, too complacent to forget the side effects. After being handsome for only 3 seconds, Tang Feng screamed in panic and felt a very weak sense of weakness. This comes from the body, but also from the weakness of the mind. Even if the body is full of calamities, it is powerless and unable to do anything. Therefore, he fell from the sky like a bird with broken wings. It's a great shame this time. Tang Feng smiled bitterly, closed his eyes pitifully, and let his body fall without a struggle, doing useless work. Anyway, a passive guardian with catastrophic power. No matter how you fall, you can't die. A loud roaring roar sound came from his ears, and the cold wind and snow rushed towards him. Since he couldn't cause any harm to Tang Feng, the force of disaster did not actively resist it. He felt the coldness from his body and couldn't help but shiver. Suddenly, he felt a warm and soft body, hugged him tightly, and heard the roar twinkle screamed at his ears. Tang Feng was stunned, opened his eyes, and saw a flashing face that was close at hand. Vertical bar great, you're fine, don't worry, I'll bring you back to the ground safely. Shouting in surprise, the frenzied snowstorm ruffled her long hair, covering half of her pretty face, and some of the long hair was dragged onto Tang Feng's face, making him itch and want to sneeze. As she urgently finished speaking, she hugged Tang Feng tightly and opened a spatial channel below, allowing the two of them to fall down and disappear into the sky. Immediately afterward, on the other side, just a dozen meters above the ground, a spatial channel appeared horizontally, and Twinkle flew horizontally holding Tang Feng. Good for Qian Nuo. Due to the momentum of the fall, the two of them flew sideways for a certain distance, and finally fell to the ground under the action of gravity. Due to the cushioning of the horizontal flight, the two of them landed safely. They only groaned, and their bodies hurt a little, but they were not injured. Okay, we have landed safely, can you get up? Blink turned his head, his face flushed. He didn't dare to look at Tang Feng, and whispered to the supports, I can't. Tang Feng was lying on Blinking S body weakly, pressing her down, squinting his eyes to enjoy it. He was already weak and didn't want to force himself to stand up, so he just did it. It's really helpless, it's already humiliating to fall, and it's even more humiliating to let the flashing beauty save the hero. That's it, God's will is like this, and this is the situation. He can only follow the fate of heaven. You also know that after putting in my ultimate move, I don't have the strength to get up now. After Tang Feng was weak, he didn't need to pretend to be weak, and then his head couldn't help but rub. Slide down again. Chapter 79 God of Blood. Is it comfortable to rub it? If you want, I can rub it as you like, the White Queen said to Tang Feng with a smile. At this time, Tang Feng has reunited with Linger and the White Queen. His body has recovered a bit of strength. There is no problem walking normally, and he is about to leave. Unfortunately, taking advantage of the flash of light, the White Queen brought Linger to look for him and saw him. Therefore, the White Queen made fun of him, and she was sincere. She really didn't care. Ha ha ha, no need, no need. Okay, the vampires here have been eliminated by me. Let's go. Tang Feng touched his nose, put his hands on his hips, laughed dryly, changed the subject, and then took Linger's little hand, raised his feet and walked forward. Still, Linger is well behaved and sensible. No matter what he does, he will not be jealous. Tang Feng sighed and thought, she is really his good sister. The White Queen snorted lightly, feeling very annoyed. She looked at her flashing figure and compared herself. It was obvious that her figure was better and her style was more charming. Why didn't Tang Feng tease her? She can even flirt with Blink. She can even give it to Tang Feng for nothing, and she is still pretending to be confused. How annoying, how annoying. The White Queen followed angrily. Blink also followed with 893, bowing her head, with a look of embarrassment on her face. The incident the previous one had embarrassed her too much, and her pretty face had flushed red. She didn't calm down. She was very distressed. Why was she always in close contact with Tang Feng? She knew that Tang Feng had spirituality. She shouldn't have any fantasies, but these days, she was involuntarily attracted to Tang Feng. Either the nature of admiring the strong, or Tang Feng's beauty, or his love for his sister, or his warmth, or something. Unconsciously, there was already a shadow of Tang Feng in Flicker's heart. Brother, what was your power to destroy vampires before? It's so powerful. I felt a warmth from afar, and it melted the surrounding ice and snow, as if the sun was coming closer. Linger asked curiously. She didn't have too many distractions. As long as her brother was okay, everything would be fine. Ha ha ha, amazing. That's the power of the natural disaster solar storm. Tang Feng didn't hide the skills idea from the three girls, laughing and explaining. The three girls listened curiously and attentively, sighing from time to time. Too powerful, wow, too strong. The four of them walked farther and farther, and finally their backs disappeared, and only the reverberation was left. A small town, plus about 30,000 vampires, was destroyed and annihilated due to Tang Feng's arrival. The results proved that all the vampires' attempts to resist were useless and they would only give their lives in vain. Half a month later. No, you're wrong. We vampires will not sacrifice ourselves in vain. As long as you add your blood, I will have the ability to take revenge. Come on, Daywalker, let's be one. 35 In the ancient hall, Deacon Firth was shouting, venting his unwillingness, anger, and excitement. His eyes lit up, looking at Daywalker, who was tied up tightly and unable to move, with a sense of excitement that his work was about to be completed. What a blood god! It's just a rumored monster. Even if you get my blood and successfully transform into a blood god, you can't be Tang Feng's opponent. How scary, how strong a level 4 mutant is. You always knew, you didn't have a chance from the beginning. Daywalker gave up trying to struggle, staring at Deacon's face intently. Firth and said word by word, no, I am different from you, a coward. No matter how strong Tang Feng is, we vampires will not be afraid. We vampires are the most powerful and most perfect creatures. Look, we can live forever. Can humans do it? Can a mutant do it? No matter how strong Tang Feng is, he will eventually die of old age, and we cannot. Deacon Firth retorted angrily. He, The most perfect creature? Can it be exposed to sunlight? Daywalker sneered, and Deacon Firth was speechless in one sentence. Furious, and without further ado, he cut a wound on Daywalker's wrist, bled it, and began the ritual. A jet, Daywalker's blood, including the blood donated by the three elders, plus a large amount of collected blood, began to flow into the drawn magic circle. Little by little, the entire magic circle was dyed red. The dark light, mixed with blood red, began to shine in the magic circle. Deacon Firth stood in the center, and his figure was completely enveloped by the power of dark magic. Soon, the uncontrollable sound of pain and the transformation of dark magic into Deacon came out. Firth had already started. Can it succeed? The blood god is just an ancient legend of our vampire family, which has never been verified. I hope it works. Outside the main hall, three elders who had shed a lot of blood, were very weak and had pale faces, anxiously waiting for the result. After a long time, the screams inside finally calmed down. Did you succeed? The three elders thought anxiously. The door of the main hall was creaking, and it opened, and a blood-red figure appeared in front of them. Immediately afterwards, a red shadow flashed past, and with the strength of the three elders, they couldn't react at all. It was just a blink of an eye, and the feeling of emptiness came from the heart. Their faces froze and they looked down sluggishly, their chests were torn open and their hearts were missing. When the sound of biting came, they turned their heads, and the last look they saw was a blood-red monster with a pair of wings spread out, eating their hearts with great taste. Why? With this doubt, the three elders died. In their opinion, Deacon Firth has undoubtedly become a blood god, so why kill them? This question is also Daywalker's question. Although he has been injected with a lot of blood, with his physique, he cannot die. The most important thing is that Deacon Firth did not kill him. Why? Because the ruler of the vampire, it is enough to have me alone, and I don't need elders like them to get in the way and point fingers. HMPH. Didn't you say that I am not Tang Feng's opponent? Then keep your eyes open and give me a good witness. My blood god Deacon Firth will kill Tang Feng. Deacon Firth roared, flapping his wings, sending him flying. This is why he spared Daywalker's life and became a blood god. Because of his increased strength, his temperament has changed greatly. He is no longer full of plots and tricks, but more bloodthirsty, ruthless, domineering, and arrogant. Respect. Deacon Firth yelled and vented for a moment, flapped his wings, rolled the wind, grabbed Daywalker with one hand, and quickly left the hall. Under the afterglow of the setting sun, Daywalker, who has become a blood god, is no longer afraid of the sun, faces the setting sun, and flies freely. The blood god is coming to Tang Feng. Time, just over 2 months. The vampire clan's death toll is estimated at 100,000. And the key gathering places that have been destroyed are approaching 50 locations worldwide. Chapter 80 Tang Feng's Challenge. In a world beyond the reach of ordinary people, a shocking news was delivered. Anyone with money and power can use various channels to learn this information. The Red Demon Tang Feng, the new 4th-level mutant, has only been a little over 3 months since he awakened, and he has created a series of great annihilation events. From the beginning, he fought against the military's arrest, massacred military soldiers, and also caused an air crash. Next, a series of deadly disasters were created, involving innocent lives, and the methods were very ruthless and merciless. Hundreds of lives were lost in Tang Feng's hands. I thought he was cruel enough. Unexpectedly I still underestimate him. The war between Tang Feng and the vampire clan could not be hidden from conscientious people. Many people were secretly watching, like paparazzi, silently lurking, not missing every battle. The National Strategic Defense Strike and Logistics Support Agency, the future called SHIELD, the Covert Hydra, the CIA, the generals of various military forces, the various large groups, Stark Industries, Osborne Industries, etc. They all set their sights on Tang Feng and the vampire, and kept an eye on the development of things. So as soon as Tang Feng retaliated, there were 2 consecutive deaths of vampire elders, which shocked them. The arrival of the meteorite destroyed the castle, and they were already numb. Meteorite said that it will be called when it is called, and it cannot be offended. After that, the incident in the city made them tremble even more, thinking that Tang Feng was too cruel, a ruthless and heartless killer who likes to kill. Even a vampire is a race of intelligent life. Tang Feng is like cutting straw, hitting and hitting again. There are thousands of vampires, tens of thousands of vampires, and they are really inhuman. The small-town incident was nothing, but the small-town incident shocked them even more. They had already expressed their stunned eyes, but they were very sympathetic to the vampire. Some people have already regarded vampires as a vulnerable group, and Tang Feng is a stalker villain. No, a devil. In the extermination of the small town, Tang Feng used the new disaster skill again. After inquiring about the information of the Hellfire Club, they learned that it was a very powerful natural disaster power. This is the information that Tang Feng deliberately leaked, so that people would be more and more afraid of it. Like summoning meteorites, it is a natural disaster force that can wipe out a planet. Knowing this, they panicked, fearing that one day Tang Feng would be unhappy and summon a natural disaster to exterminate humans and all living beings. In addition to panic, they couldn't do anything about Tang Feng, so they had no choice but to pretend to be deaf and dumb, deceiving themselves. Okay, how could human beings be annihilated for no reason? Yes, they had to pray that Tang Feng would not be impulsive. All life on the planet was in Tang Feng's hands. This is the sadness of the weak. No matter how powerful the strength is, how much wealth there is, without strength, there is no guarantee of life. After the Xiaosheng extinction incident, Tang Feng's killing continued. Until now, they were making an estimate and were shocked to find that about 100,000 vampires had been killed. The number of vampires is only 1 million, that is, 1/10 of them died. They were stunned and sighed, expressing sympathy for the vampire clan, and suddenly felt that if Tang Feng continued to kill like this, he might really be able to exterminate the vampire clan. They thought that this was how things were going. Tang Feng would travel around the world, find vampires, and kill them all. Although the process was a bit troublesome, vampires did not have the ability to resist. If you guess right at the beginning, you guess wrong in the process, and the ending is even more unknown. Becoming a blood god, Deacon Firth, who also has a 4th level power, stood up with integrity and let him go. He was going to fight Tang Feng to the death. Location: New York City. The location of the battle: in a cathedral near the city. The statue of the god who used to enshrine Jesus has been dyed red with blood, and his appearance is fierce and terrifying. He has a pair of blood gods similar to bat wings. He is hanging upside down above the god statue, like a bat, squinting and waiting for Tang Feng. In a corner, Daywalker was sitting quietly. He was not tied up, but he did not escape. He knew that facing the blood god, he would have no chance to escape. Only when the blood god and Tang Feng fought, could he have a chance to escape. Tang Feng, you must win, Daywalker thought in his heart. Having seen the birth of the blood god with his own eyes and having experienced the power of despair, he did not dare to conclude that Tang Feng would win. If Tang Feng lost, he didn't dare to imagine how much of a threat the vampires would pose to mankind under the leadership of the blood god. He was helpless and could only pin his hopes on Tang Feng. Around the cathedral, the bustling streets were already empty, and all the residents had been evacuated. Ask for flowers. The blood god had an appointment with Tang Feng. The location was here. The military was very upset and couldn't stop it, so they had to find a reason and forcibly evacuated the crowd ahead of schedule. The military set up an isolation belt several hundred meters away to prevent unrelated people from waiting to enter and be on alert. Some high-level military officials put forward their opinions, mobilized unconventional weapons, and wiped out the blood god and Tang Feng. Some people laughed. To successfully kill Tang Feng and the blood god, less powerful guns and missiles are not enough, and nuclear weapons need to be sent to be safe. So, drop a nuclear bomb on New York City? No one could bear such a terrible consequence, so they remained silent and chose to act on a whim. In addition to the military, there are many other forces that have sent spies to hide and pay attention to the outcome of the battle. Among them, the spies sent by Colonel Stryker are also included. He is secretly gnashing his teeth, hoping that the blood god can kill Tang Feng. It can be said that, except for the ordinary people who don't know about it and keep it in the dark, the rest of the bigwigs with power and financial resources are all insiders. Insiders all over the world have their eyes on this place, and the battle between Tang Feng and the blood god will be under the spotlight. A certain playboy is no exception. He rarely did not play with the beauties, but stayed at home quietly and watched the ultra-high-definition video sent back from the satellite. The world is becoming more and more dangerous. Level 4 mutants that can exterminate human beings are emerging one by one, and their lives are threatened at any time. If it goes on like this, will you still be able to happily play with beautiful women? Playboy, Tony Stark thought sadly, and couldn't help but have an idea to develop a weapon to protect himself. Appeared. Realizing that Tang Feng's figure appeared in the video, he quickly stopped thinking about it for the time being and focused on watching. On the street outside the cathedral, a spatial passage suddenly formed. Tang Feng walked out. Blink did not appear, then closed the spatial passage and left for the time being. Tang Feng was challenged and chose to come alone, without bringing others. Just told Blink to come to support at any time. Blood god, Tang Feng muttered to himself, raised his lips with a smile, raised his feet fearlessly, and walked towards the cathedral. Chapter 81 is not what was expected. The blood god, I heard, seems to be the opponent of the Blade Warrior, a big villain, full of expectations of becoming the blood god, and was finally defeated. Judging from this kind of pitiful plot, dying is the top strength of the 3rd level, definitely inferior to the 4th level, and has a fatal weakness. Tang Feng is very happy about this. Before entering the cathedral, he felt a powerful dark force, as if smelling a strong smell of blood, giving people a very evil feeling. The power of the blood god can be compared to the 4th level, and it is also the power of the overlord of the planet. Movies are movies, reality is reality. Tang Feng was already deeply moved by this sentence. If he really believed in the plot of the movie, he would have lost all his underwear. Facing the unknown powerful enemy, the blood god, and knowing that there are so many people around, secretly watching the battle, some of them definitely have ulterior motives. Therefore, Tang Feng prudently decided to come alone, and Flicker would support him at any time, and the rest would not need it. In this way, if something happens, he can evacuate in time through flashing teleportation. Blood god, Tang Feng pushed open the half-covered door and entered the church. At a glance, he focused his attention on the blood-colored monster above the pendant and said softly with a dignified expression, Tang Feng, you're finally here. Blood god, Deacon Fizz abruptly opened his bloody eyes, screamed, turned his body, flapped his wings, floated in the air, and stared at Tang Feng. Get off. I don't like people looking at me like this. In the corner of Tang Feng's mouth twitched, and he condensed a group of calamity energy, the size of a basketball file, and threw it at the blood god in the air. A group of blood dread energy, the same size as the file, and the force of disaster collided in the air, making a crackling sound, and the forces of both sides cancelled each other out. In the end, with the same level of energy, the calamity was slightly better, destroying the blood dread energy, and with 1/5 of the power remaining, it continued to fly towards the blood god. Roar tilde impossible, my blood is not weaker than yours. The blood god's wings flicked forward once, and the broken group of disaster force was easily crushed, and he shouted angrily, the facts are clear, your blood energy is still a little worse than mine. Tang Feng narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, in fact, the power of disaster is the power drawn from disasters, natural disasters, and the level should be as infinite as natural disasters, however, limited by Tang Feng's ability. There is currently only a 4-level power, and the level also belongs to the 4th level. Even so, the calamity is a first-rate power at the 4th level. Although the blood energy of the blood god is powerful and strange, it is obviously not an opponent of the force of disaster. Moreover, it was not long before Deacon Firth became a blood god, and he had just become the 4th level. Whether it was the accumulation of power or the control of power, he couldn't compare to Tang Feng. These were Tang Feng's advantages and his chances of defeating the blood god. Well, according to Zhou Anhuan's classification, he is at the early stage of the 4th level, and I am at the middle stage. If there is no accident, I can defeat him with the power of disaster. Tang Feng thought easily in his heart. Then, his eyes flashed, and in shock, under the automatic protection of the disaster force, he was knocked back and hit the wall on one side, and the disaster force protecting him destroyed a large hole in the wall behind him. So fast. You are too arrogant. You can fight back when you say it, and you don't say anything in advance. It's your grandfather's. It hurts so much. Tang Feng gasped, clutching his bruised right shoulder, cursing incessantly. He was injured for the first time since the awakening calamity. He let go and looked at the bruised shoulder. Under the flow of the calamity, he quickly recovered. He breathed a sigh of relief, and then looked at the blood god with dignity. Huh? Where are you? Tang Feng was startled, turned his head to look around, and was thrown out. Be careful. The blood god's speed is very fast, and his body's resilience is also very strong, comparable to the indestructible body. He is not afraid of the sun. There is only one weakness. Only silver weapons can hurt and kill him. The words hurriedly explained by Daywalker came. Within a few seconds, Tang Feng was thrown into the air several times. Even if he had a calamity to protect himself, it would be very painful. It's humiliating to beat the blood god into a ball. That's enough. Tang Feng shouted angrily, and the calamity erupted violently, finally forcing the blood god to temporarily retreat. He quickly took a few breaths, hissed and sucked in the air conditioning. His body was in pain. He had a bad feeling. Could he be killed by jumping? HMPH. Even if your calamity is stronger than my blood, so what? You have no combat experience and don't know all kinds of fighting skills. If you really fight, you are not my opponent at all. The blood god looked at Tang Feng and sneered, already determined that the winner was definitely him. I'm not ashamed to say, haven't you heard that a random fist can kill a master? Even if you don't know martial arts and have no combat experience, you can still rudely beat yourself up with just the power of disaster. In order not to be outdone, Tang Feng replied. In his heart, he was also very guilty, but he did not lose the battle and stood firm. No, big is no good. What he said is completely true. There is no way. You must cheat to win. Should you use that kind of natural disaster power? Tang Feng's eyes kept rolling, thinking about tactics. Be careful. Before Daywalker's reminder was finished, Tang Feng was kicked away by the blood god again. Damn it, don't think that your speed is fast. I can't help you. Don't be too arrogant. 35 Tang Feng stood up from the ground angrily, stomped his feet violently, and started the earthquake. Man-made disaster. With the launch of the disaster skill, the detection field became clearer. This time, the blood god's movement trajectory could not be hidden from him, so he had time to react. The earth is shaking. Although it is not too strong, it is not enough to destroy the house, but it also affects the blood god's footsteps. Seeing that his body was tilted, he quickly stopped, flapped his wings, and stabilized his body. Immediately after a muffled sound, he looked up and saw that the big chandelier above him was falling. Just as he was about to leave, his wings suddenly shrank, his body stagnated, and 4.7 was hit. The dignified blood god. Wings cramp? It's ridiculous, but it happens anyway. Ha ha ha, give me death. Using off-table moves, Tang Feng finally grasped the blood god's flaw, condensing calamity into his fists, as if he was holding a basketball and amplifying his moves, and punched at the blood god's head. Roar! The blood god let out an angry roar, and with his super reaction nerve, he used his blood to block the calamity fist in time. Boom! This time, the ferocity of the catastrophe and the blood energy collided, and a powerful shockwave erupted, instantly destroying the surrounding pews, or whatever. The doors were swept open, the church trembled, and the walls collapsed. Daywalker looked on in fear and took the opportunity to sneak out of the church. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82 The Son of Disaster. God, please bless us. When the earthquake was felt, The military soldiers who organized the isolation area were all terrified and prayed in fear. It's no use praying to God, but pray to the Son of Calamity. A soldier beside him said helplessly, "Sons of disaster?" The previous soldier asked in surprise. Yes, God sent Jesus as the Son of God to save us. So, Tang Feng was sent by the God of disaster to destroy the world, the sons of disaster. 9. The soldier looked up in astonishment and expressed his thoughts. He believes in God. He believes that God exists, that there is a God who saves the world, and there is also a God who destroys the world. Through a series of events made by Tang Feng, as well as his ability to initiate disasters, he felt that the Sons of Disasters was more worthy of the name of the Red Devil or Son of Disaster. It really matches Tang Feng. The surrounding soldiers, after hearing this, nodded their heads subconsciously. Many generals and high-level people who came to pay attention have heard the soldiers' words through the remote command communicator, and inexplicably agree with the name of the Child of Disaster. And so, the name of the Child of Disaster spread. At this moment, the earthquake finally stopped. The soldiers cried with joy, and finally relaxed. It must have been the Son of Disaster who heard my prayers and called off the earthquake. The soldier who believed in God shouted excitedly, Jiao, who had already been charmed, and he didn't care if Tang Feng was a fierce criminal wanted by mutants. The other soldiers were speechless, and they simply looked away and ignored him. Boom! Tang Feng was knocked flying again, flew backwards from the church to the outside of the street, and fell several times to the ground in a very embarrassed manner before stopping the momentum and staggering to his feet. I felt a little dizzy, and it seemed like there were stars moving above my head. Tang Feng shook his head violently, finally getting rid of his dizziness, looked at the blood god flying in the air, and rushed out of the church, with a bitter face. It was difficult to handle. Earthquake, building collapse, ground fissure, summon a tornado, a super typhoon of magnitude 8 or 9, or 10. These disasters are not a good way to fight the enemy. The blood god can fly. That's right. The blood god can fly. Earthquakes and these disasters can't help him, even if it is a typhoon, tornado or something summoned. It is just a bad move, and it is almost the same as being caught by oneself. The disaster that Tang Feng cast would not have the ability to automatically avoid the user. When the typhoon came, even he would be dragged into the sky. Let me ask, who is the best in terms of flying skills? Definitely a blood god with wings. Therefore, Tang Feng can still handle the ground battle. If it is an air battle, he will definitely be hanged. After all, with the current situation, it is still impossible to defeat the blood god. Expand the movement. Be sure to expand the movement. 9. Tang Feng shouted fiercely in his heart. Borrowing the power of natural disasters, the body will be weak. There are so many eyes around, watching the battle in the dark. Don't think. Someone will definitely have bad thoughts about him. Therefore, he really didn't want to borrow the power of natural disasters unless necessary. Even with the support of Flash, it is a bit dangerous. Boom. Boy, you're going too far. Don't slap your face. When Tang Feng was distracted, the blood god attacked again. The blood energy condensed into the sharp claws and slashed towards his face. A series of attacks. Even if he sees the attack trajectory of the blood god through the detection domain, Tang Feng has a hard time reacting, so he can only put his hands on his head and protect his beautiful face. When the blood god's attack stopped, he stood in the distance, thirsty for blood, the blood on his claws. His face turned ugly. He kept spitting it out. His mouth made a sizzling sound. Obviously his mouth was injured. Ha ha ha, my blood is delicious. It's a bad mouth. Hey, damn it. This is the first time I have had so many injuries. It's killing me. Tang Feng let out a loud laugh, then bared his teeth and screamed in pain. When he put his hands down, there were 3 claw marks on his right face, and he saw 3 spots of flesh. As the disaster recovered, granulation appeared and gradually healed. There were more than a dozen claw marks on his body, front and back, and his clothes were tattered. He is really not a match. Tang Feng smiled bitterly in his heart. Although the physical quality has become stronger and stronger under the Calamity transformation, it is still far inferior to that of the blood god. The combat experience and fighting ability are completely unmatched. In terms of combat, He is a bit white and has always pushed all enemies horizontally with overwhelming power. The blood god is different. As a vampire who has lived for a long time, he has too much combat experience, and the ability to kill at close range is simply a nightmare for Tang Feng. Not to mention that the blood god's speed is still very fast. It is estimated that it is not much worse than Quicksilver's speed. Just like when facing Minato Namafeng, who used the Flying Thor technique, all Tang Feng can do is use the Shared Eye and the Staring technique. In this way, he cannot defeat the blood god. Blood god, you are very strong. I admit that you are the strongest opponent I have encountered since awakening. Tang Feng sighed lightly and said solemnly, you are also the most difficult and powerful opponent I have ever met in the years I have lived. 995 Blood God. Dicon Firth heard Tang Feng's words, and felt proud, so he didn't rush to attack, and said seriously. When the words fell, Tang Feng took a deep look at the blood god. The blood god also stared at Tang Feng. A gust of wind blew and rolled up a few leaves. Do heroes appreciate heroes? Tang Feng thought strangely in his heart and immediately denied it. Stop causing trouble. He won't. As long as he is an enemy, he can't wait to kill them all. The reason he said those words and made this gesture was just to buy some time. Wait. Tang Feng raised his hand and said with a serious look on his face. The blood god raised his eyebrows, but stopped after hearing the words. Without Tang Feng's previous praise, he wouldn't have given up attacking so easily. Moreover, he believed that the odds of winning were set and Tang Feng would surely lose, so he did not rush to kill Tang Feng. Roar. Okay, I finally figured out the best way to kill you. We can move on. After a while, Tang Feng finally pulled his mind out of the power of the 10 great natural disasters and said with satisfaction, do you dare to play with me? 897 Blood God felt that his IQ was humiliated. He roared and rushed to Tang Feng's side in an instant. His claws tore and slashed extremely fast, and circled around Tang Feng a dozen times, finally giving up attacking and returning to the original place. Cough cough, strong enough, but it still didn't kill me. Tang Feng squatted on the ground and coughed out a few mouthfuls of blood. As the calamity gradually melted into the blood, his blood was no longer ordinary blood, just like sulfuric acid, corroding the ground a little. Although the degree of corrosion is not strong, it is already a dangerous reminder. Damn it, my surname will live on in the future. Tang Feng groaned in his heart, and then looked at the blood god with hatred. He noticed one thing. With the fierce battle, the progress of the body transformation of the power of disaster will continue to accelerate. This is because there is a threat to life. The force of disaster accelerated the body transformation at Tang Feng's request. In the short battle with the blood god, the progress of the body transformation can be compared with the previous 3 months. It is estimated that it may take a year for the body to completely reshape, and now there are only 2 or 3 months left. Tang Feng was very angry, thinking of the consequences of the completion of the body transformation. It was very painful, and he hated the blood god even more. You are dead. When Tang Feng finished speaking coldly, an astonishing change occurred in the scene, and gravel, leaves, or other light objects on the ground floated up. Chapter 83, The Power to Change the Center of the Earth. The astonishing changes that appeared on the scene were only caused by a little bit of power leaking out, and it was not the full use of the power of the natural disaster. Stop, what do you want to do? The blood god roared in panic. He could feel an invisible gravitational force around him, which gradually increased, pulling his body. Dangerous, very dangerous. Life is seriously threatened. When Tang Feng made a big move, the blood god's intuitive premonition kept reminding him. Because of his intuition, he is convinced and relying on it for so many years. He does not know how many life and death crises have been avoided and a small life has been saved. Moreover, in any case, it is impossible to let the enemy quietly expand his moves. The blood god made a decision in the blink of an eye, violently bursting out blood energy, speeding up, rushing towards Tang Feng, trying to kill him first. Late. Tang Feng meditated in his heart and frowned, strengthening the power of natural disasters. With a hum, invisible ripples appeared, and the surrounding gravitational force suddenly strengthened. Whether it was gravel, light objects, or heavy objects, collapsed walls and fallen doors. They all violated the laws of physics and flew upwards. The same is true for the blood god. A strong gravitational pull attracts it, causing it to lift its feet off the ground and flap its wings with all its might, barely stabilizing its body and resisting the gravitational pull. Only in this way, it can no longer attack. What power is this? The blood god screamed in horror. He could feel the invisible and powerful gravitational force, which had spread around him and enveloped him. No matter how hard he struggled, he would be like a mosquito that fell into a spider web and could only wait to die. This is the power of natural disasters. The center of the earth moves. Tang Feng stretched out his hands and held them empty, as if manipulating invisible gravity to control the blood god, and slowly said, "Natural disaster? Is it the power that summons meteorites and attracts solar storms? So the center of the earth moves? What is the power? Why can gravity be manipulated?" 99 The blood god is still bewildered, screaming and asking, and at the same time desperately struggling to resist gravity. Under the desperate burst of blood energy, he is about to fall to the ground bit by bit. He was overjoyed and saw the hope of breaking free and saving his life. Tang Feng turned a blind eye and continued to explain, "That's right, pole shift is one of the 10 natural disasters that I can use, just like summoning meteorites and solar storms." The blood god's face was stunned. His mouth was wide open, and his fangs were exposed. "God, did you hear wrong? There are 10 kinds of natural disasters?" He didn't know, except for the few daughters of Linger. The rest didn't know, and he never thought that there were 10 natural disasters that Tang Feng could use. This is a secret that hasn't been leaked for the time being. That is, there are 10 options for Tang Feng to destroy the world. It just feels like being casual, picking and choosing on the surface of the card. And if you want to destroy the world, just pick a card at random. The blood god is about to be scared to pee. He is very sad and angry. He wants to scream, "You never said it, and natural disasters have not been used." He thought that summoning meteorites, solar storms, and various disasters he had used before should be all the skills that Tang Feng could use. Before the battle, all aspects were considered. Summon meteorite. Don't be afraid. As long as Tang Feng is entangled, he doesn't think he dares to summon meteorite, unless he wants to die together. He is not afraid of solar storms. He no longer has the weakness of being afraid of the sun, and he has an indestructible body. He was really summoned by Tang Feng, but he was still entangled and endured the power of natural disasters together to see who could not hold it first and who would die first. As for the other disasters, they have also been taken into account and there are countermeasures. All aspects of the battle have been considered, and there are no surprises. As expected, he has always been pushing Tang Feng to fight and is about to win. However, Tang Feng used another natural disaster power, which is still very suitable to deal with his power. You asked me just now, what is the power of geocentric change? It's a pity that you have lived for so many years. You have no knowledge or culture. Have you never heard of gravity? Tang Feng looked at the blood god with contempt and explained, the pole shift of the center of the earth represents the force of the center of the earth, which is the 4 fundamental forces of the universe. The force of gravity. The center of the earth is the core of the planet, and it will have a strong gravitational force that will attract all matter, and after a long period of change, a planet will gradually form. The file size of a planet depends on how strong the gravitational force of the Earth's center is. A strong Earth's center can form Jupiter, or a larger planet, and the Sun also has an Earth's center, which should be called a fixed star. Forget it, you just think it's a planet. And you, an uneducated vampire, can't explain it clearly. Tang Feng waved his hand and said with a look of disgust. The blood god spat out harsh air from his nostrils. If it weren't for the gravitational pull, he really wanted to tear his mouth apart with his claws. However, hearing Tang Feng's explanation, his heart sank, and he had a very bad premonition that there might be no hope of escape. Sure enough, Tang Feng issued a death declaration to him. Hearing this, even with your stupid brain, you should know what power I'm using now, right? Yes, I'm using the gravity of the Earth's center. That is to say, the gravity of this planet is controlled by me. As long as I want, I can increase the gravity of the entire planet by many times, or reduce it to less than that of the moon, or I can completely cancel the gravity of the planet, converge the gravity of the center of the Earth, and let all the matter attached to the center of the Earth shrink. Everything is gone. 5. There will be no land, no ocean, no atmosphere, and all other life will no longer exist and drift into the universe. A planet will disappear, leaving only the center of the Earth. After a long time, a planet may form again. After Tang Feng sighed, even as a user, he was terrified by the power of natural disasters. The power of natural disasters is endless. If you use your imagination, you can also treat the entire universe as a planet, manipulate the gravitational force of the entire universe, and completely destroy it. Thinking about the future, he doesn't have the ability to do so for the time being. Well, manipulate the gravitational force of the entire planet and crash it. I can't do that. However, it is still possible to kill yourself by borrowing just a portion of the gravitational force. 35 vertical bar God of blood, Dick on Firth, can you resist the planet's gravitational pull? Tang Feng's grasping hands slowly tightened, borrowing more gravity from the center of the Earth, driving the blood god. Take the planet under his feet as the standard to analyze. The 4th level is very strong, but it is not enough to fight against the power of a planet. Even at the 5th level, a period of preparation is needed. Moreover, the strength is biased towards destruction and destruction. To destroy a planet, it is a complete destruction, not to destroy the appearance of the planet. In the reversal of the future, the young Magneto Eric accepted the power of Apocalypse, making his own power close to the 5th level. Even so, he had to prepare for a period of time before he could destroy the environment of the entire planet and destroy human civilization. This is still under the condition that the planet silently endures and does not resist. The gravitational force possessed by a planet is very strong, and if it really explodes, it is definitely the top level of the 5th level. 3 to 4, 4 to 5. The difference of one level is the difference between heaven and earth. In the movie, June simply lost control, her power went out of control, and she simply killed Charles with skill. Similarly, Tang Feng can easily kill the blood god by borrowing the planet's gravity. I am defeated. Defeat is convinced. The blood god, Qian Nuoja, felt the gravitational force shrouded his body and became so strong that it was irresistible. He smiled miserably, and when he saw the end of his life, he gave up his struggle as if he was ashamed. Go all the way to the country. Tang Feng was not in the mood to talk when he saw the blood god's resignation. He was very impressed with him. He was the first to hurt him and put him in a tough fight. Only by borrowing the power of natural disasters can he defeat the enemy. Earth exploding star. Tang Feng shouted, his hands completely clenched. Although it was a shameless use of the name Earth exploding star, it was also a coincidence. The principle of this ultimate move is similar to that of Earth blast sky star. The difference is that the real Earth star first condenses a black ball with a strong attraction, like a black hole, to suck in everything around it. And its Earth burst star does not need the action of the black ball. It can directly attract the powerful gravitational force of the planet, wrapped in the blood god, with the blood god as the center, acting as a black ball. At the same time, it will also bring great pressure to the blood god. Chapter 84. If you hit the young, the old will come out. In this way, compared to Earth Blast original star, his Earth Blast sky, not only does star have no obvious weakness without the black ball, but it also has a stronger power. If the blood god wants to escape, he has to use his own strength to break free from the gravitational pull. Unfortunately, with Tang Feng's current ability, the power of the borrowed natural disaster, unless it is the power of the overlord of the universe, it is possible to break free, or someone is interfering with Tang Feng. The blood god has no such possibility at all. He has not resisted the ability and was directly pulled by the powerful gravitational force. He was also heavily oppressed, unable to move, and flew straight into the sky. As he flew, there were various things that were sucked in, pressing and surrounding him. The rumbling sound continued to sound, with Tang Feng standing within a radius of 1,000 meters. The powerful gravitational force centered on the blood god. All things, matter, houses, streets, were swept away and quickly condensed into the sky, a sphere with a stony surface. Moreover, The military soldiers who had been guarding the isolation belt a few hundred meters away had also suffered a disaster due to the pull of gravity and were desperately sucked in. It turned out that some of the spies who were hiding and watching the battle in the dark were also sucked in. This is more than that. The gravitational wave is in the range of 1 kilometer and continues to suck in the distance, and everything along the way is attracted and stops spreading until the distance of 1 kilometer. Inevitably, it happened to involve a lot of innocent people. People kept screaming and screaming, desperately sucked into huge numbers of 897 stone balls and immediately crushed to death. Some of them were killed in advance by some rocks and sharp objects in the middle of the journey. With everything within a range of 1 kilometer, except for Tang Feng, they are all sucked in together. A giant stone ball that is getting bigger and bigger is slowly forming at an altitude of 700 or 800 meters, and it is about to be crushed in the center. The slag is the god of blood. There were also many burials. Tang Feng, I will make the first move. Our ancestors will avenge our vampire clan. Before he was completely buried in the center of the stone ball, the blood god's last cry came out vaguely. Tang Feng was startled and frowned. It seemed that the matter was not over yet. It just so happened that he did not plan to let the vampires go. No matter what seniority it is, if you dare to come, you will dare to kill, cut the grass and eradicate the roots, and you will never have any trouble in the future. Thinking about it, he continued to borrow gravity to strengthen his power, not giving the blood god the slightest hope of escape. As for the innocent people who have been implicated, they can only ask for forgiveness. The place where the blood god is called is not in a deserted place. So, blame the blood god, no matter what others think. Anyway, this black pot, he pushed it to the blood god. It was really unintentional. There was nothing he could do, and it was a good thing that could protect himself from being affected. The kilometer-long range is also the result of a jet trying his best to suppress the gravitational diffusion. In addition, he also carefully borrowed the gravitational force of the planet, trying not to affect the planet as much as possible. Thinking about it, it was originally a big river and branched into a small river. Even if it was originally not important to the big river, it would inevitably affect the originally calm and unyielding river. With the release of the force from the center of the earth, Tang Feng borrowed the gravity of the planet, and some effects have inevitably occurred throughout the world. As mentioned earlier, the power of natural disasters is not easy to control. No, let alone natural disasters, even if it is all kinds of disasters, it is not easy to control. Natural disasters, these powers, unlike those spells, Taoism and magic, can be finely controlled in nature. Impossible, like earthquakes, tsunamis, typhoons and other disasters, or natural disasters. Whoever wants to be destroyed will be destroyed. If you don't want to hurt anyone, can you avoid it? Then it shouldn't be called a disaster or a natural disaster. It should be called the power of heaven and earth, the power of heaven, the power of deities. That's it. Disasters, natural disasters, whether controlled by Tang Feng or not, are essentially terrifying forces that destroy everything. If it weren't for the force of the Earth's center shift, it was gravity, and Tang Feng could create a safe area on purpose, and perhaps he would also be involved. It was like Kuchiki by Akaya from Death God. His swastika was a 360-degree attack with no dead ends, but the position he was standing in was a circle without any injuries. As in this case, the place where Tang Feng was standing was the place where the gravitational force would not reach. Because of the strong attraction, everything on the ground was sucked in, and even the place where he was standing was affected. Therefore, he used gravity to float, which is more useful and convenient than the force of disaster. It's over. Tang Feng looked up and sighed inexplicably. Through the exploration of the field, he saw that the blood god had been crushed into slag, and his body had become a pool of blood and mud, solidified into the stone ball, and there was no breath of life at all. No matter how strong the regeneration ability is, it cannot be resurrected. The strong pressure of gravity, coupled with the extreme oppressive force of the solidification of the large stone ball, even if the blood god has a 4th level power, he will not be able to escape death after all. First, a massive calamity condensed in the hand, and it was thrown upwards and exploded, just like fireworks. which was a signal that the notification was flashing. The flashing teleportation ability is really convenient. It is always available. I just waited a few seconds, and through the sensing field, I was keenly aware of the spatial fluctuations. Seeing this, Tang Feng finally stopped his skill and stopped borrowing the power of natural disasters. In an instant, the familiar feeling of weakness came back again, and then he fell down. He was already prepared for this, but unexpectedly, the degree of physical weakness was reduced by about 30% compared to the previous time. In other words, he can recover faster. In this regard, not only unhappy, but also want to cry without tears. This shows that her body has become stronger, and the degree of calamity transformation has deepened. I don't know if I can live a surname life. Tang Feng couldn't help but sigh again and again, then looked up. His face was stunned, only to see the flickering spirit coming out of the spatial passage, not paying attention to the surrounding situation at all. This is because she was also frightened by the huge scene created by the large stone ball made by Tang Feng. Originally, she was also in the range of kilometers. If she hadn't evacuated to a farther place in time with teleportation, perhaps she would have been sucked into the large stone ball. She was in shock. Huh? Be careful. Stop. Tang Feng quickly waved his hands and shouted. What? Twinkle stepped on the air without any defense, screamed and fell, looking at a loss. This is because the ground that existed before has disappeared. Everything within the range of 1 kilometer, as deep as tens of meters, can reach 100 meters, has been absorbed by the large stone ball high in the sky. The large stone that condensed so much material is about 400 or 500 meters in diameter, and its shape is an irregular circle. With such a huge appearance, no one would suspect that it is a meteorite, a small planet. There's no time for you to stay in the daze. Carry me away. The big stone ball is about to fall. Moreover, because his body was weak, he couldn't get up, and he couldn't use his calamity to fly. Tang Feng was falling to the bottom of the pit. This is not the reason for his panic, but the big stone in the sky. When he cancelled out gravity, according to the laws of physics, the laws of matter, the falling speed is faster than him. The big stone ball is about to fall on his head. A huge shadow is also shrouded in flicker. If he had known that flicker was so unreliable, he would have stopped borrowing natural disasters ahead of time. There was no way. Gravitational pull has always enveloped the surroundings. If he didn't stop, flicker would have simply flown out of the spatial channel and been absorbed by the big stone ball. Therefore, it will stop early. Fortunately, after Tang Feng's reminder, flicker finally returned to his senses. First, he looked up, opened his eyes wide, and the appearance of the big stone ball falling fiercely was really terrifying. He panicked and used teleportation continuously, and left with Tang Feng in time. There was a loud bang, and the big stone ball fell to the bottom of the deep pit. There was a loud echo, and the earth trembled a few times. Chapter 85, The One-Eyed Dragon's Helplessness. New City was unlucky on this day. First, the earthquake was felt, and then an earthquake suddenly occurred. Although the duration was short and the shaking was not strong, it still frightened everyone. People panicked, car accidents occurred one after another, and the entire city was in chaos. Soon, the earthquake disappeared and I thought it was okay, but who knew that suddenly a spectacle of a huge stone ball appeared in the sky. A huge stone ball with a diameter of about 500 meters was floating in the sky at an altitude of 700 or 800 meters. Not to mention, along with the formation of the huge stone ball, a strong suction also occurred, sucking everything in. All the people within 1,000 meters of Tang Feng were pale, their hands and feet were weak, and they collapsed to the ground, with a look of disbelief and fear, and the complex emotions of the rest of their lives after the catastrophe. Far away dividing line. It's like the dividing line between hell and heaven, and the survivors are still the same. In front of them, there is a deep pit. Everything was sucked into the big stone ball. They watched helplessly as those unfortunate people looked desperate and miserable, being sucked in, unable to help themselves, unable to break free. It's one step to heaven, one step to hell. Uncontrollable screams came out one after another, and the surviving people were venting their fears, and they almost didn't have a mental breakdown. There is no doubt that today is the day of the new city disaster. The reason for the appearance of the big stone ball and the reason for the shock are unknown to ordinary people. They are used to starting marches, protests, knowing everything. Compared to ordinary people, people who know are more scared, fearful and helpless. The more you know, the less good it is. Sometimes ignorance is bliss. The power that Tang Feng displayed was too strong and terrifying. In fact, even if it has been rumored that the 4th level mutant can exterminate human beings, it has not been confirmed and is only speculated based on the powerful power of the 4th level mutant. No matter Magneto, Eric or Charles, they can control the original skill finally. No matter who they deal with, they are always crushed, and the battle is quickly resolved without creating a big scene. The big scene that Magneto Eric made was to control the incoming missile, or they have invaded a military base, guarded by thousands of soldiers, fighter planes, tanks, and all kinds of firearms. Through the control of the magnetic field, all the iron objects were controlled in an instant, and then they emerged victorious. Compared with Magneto Eric, Charles has no history of shocking the world, but only shows the mystery and power of spiritual power, and no one hides any secrets from him. But Tang Feng is different. Because of disasters, natural disasters are difficult to control, and they are born with destruction and destruction. Therefore, it is inevitable that a battle will occur, and there will be all kinds of big scenes. However, compared with the natural disasters used before, this time, the use of the force of the natural disaster of the change of the Earth's center, after all, caused a global disaster. At 14:20 in the evening, in Asia, a car that was driving normally suddenly took off and then fell. At 14:15 in the evening, in East Asia, a hot air balloon that was originally floating in the air suddenly fell directly to the ground, as if it had lost its buoyancy. At 14:23 in the evening, in Europe, a black man suddenly flew up and down, although he fell and died. It's still 14:20 in the evening. The final study found that after Tang Feng used the gravitational natural disaster, during that period of time, gravitational chaos occurred all over the world, which is why these strange phenomena occurred. In fact, the disasters affected by this are not only that, the cities located on the coast, the tsunami, the huge waves unleashed, suddenly and frequently appear, and many people drown. In some areas, in the absence of rain, the water level rose without warning and the flood broke out. In addition, the building that was in good condition suddenly sank and collapsed on the spot, causing many casualties. This incident has happened 33 times in just half an hour. In addition, an extinct volcano suddenly showed signs of being alive, and also, a case-by-case of terrifying and strange disasters was spoken in the mouth of a one-eyed black man, and in front of him was his right-hand man and trusted helper, Maria Hill. She is an older beauty with blonde hair, a cold expression, and a clear mind at all times. At that time, it was Tang Feng, the son of disaster, who used the power of the natural disaster known as the shift of the center of the earth. From the analysis of various aspects, it is judged that there is a 97% chance that it was after he used the natural disaster ability that caused the global gravitational chaos. The doctors analyzed something astonishing. If Tang Feng continues to strengthen the natural disaster power for a period of time, it will completely ruin the gravity of the entire planet. Do you know what the consequences will be? 35 The One-Eyed Dragon. Nick Fury widened his eyes and asked word by word. Knowing that gravity affects changes in gravity, it can strengthen it, it can become lighter. 35 There is also a more terrifying possibility. The reason why we can keep our feet on the ground is because the convergence point of gravity is at the center of the Earth, so even if the planet is round, we can stay on the ground safely. If the chaos of gravity affects the attraction of the center of the Earth on the planet, even for a second or two, everything on the planet, will be thrown into the universe. 99 On top of that, a series of terrifying consequences were spoken to Hill calmly, and even she couldn't hide the horror in her eyes when she thought of such terrifying consequences. In the face of terrifying and irresistible natural disasters, no one is calm. Yes, the terrible consequences are like this: the planet will be destroyed. Nick Fury rubbed his eyebrows with his hands, leaned back in the chair with a tired face, and said faintly, "What is this?" Tang Feng is just fighting and may cause a disaster. You say, if this continues, what will happen? When will the planet be over? As expected of the child of disaster. Ever since his awakening ability, he has been bringing disasters to us. She let out a long sigh. Even if she wanted to check and balance Tang Feng, there was nothing she could do for the time being. She had a high IQ and also controlled the world's #1 agent organization, but she lacked the strength to make a final decision. Even if there are a large number of unconventional weapons, she is afraid that Tang Feng will use means to perish together, so she does not dare to take action against Tang Feng. No matter what difficulties she encounters, she has the confidence to solve it, or for the first time, she has absolutely no confidence to solve Tang Feng's problem. Hill was silent, feeling very uncomfortable. It was the first time she saw her boss so weak and tired. Child of disaster, Tang Feng. This new name came from a soldier who believed in God. Although he died, he deserved it because he helped Tang Feng get a new nickname. Striker's end is here. Not only the one-eyed dragon, but after the battle between Tang Feng and the blood god, many people in power, big shots, would have trouble sleeping and eating, lamenting day and night. Their lives are no longer as moist as before. They are afraid that Tang Feng will suddenly summon a natural disaster, destroy the planet. Tang Feng did not fight, so they should be calm. If they heard that he was going to fight someone again, they would immediately jump up, pray to God and never use natural disasters. After learning of Tang Feng's natural disaster power, who would dare and have the courage to fight Tang Feng? They don't know. They can only rest assured that they are afraid of provoking Tang Feng anyway. By the way, where is that Colonel Stryker hiding? The president suddenly asked. I don't know his whereabouts either. Do you want to? The female assistant at the side replied hesitantly. Go find his whereabouts. If there is, then secretly reveal it to the disaster child. Remember, don't let others know that 897 was done by me. With Colonel Stryker hating mutant-esque character, he knew that he was not Tang Feng's opponent, but he would still do his best to deal with him and mock him. In order to prevent him from getting angry and summoning natural disasters, he had to do this. Our planet cannot withstand the disaster child's release. The president sighed and said helplessly, Yes, I see. The female assistant softly replied that she agreed with Colonel Stryker's betrayal. Sacrificing him alone is better than sacrificing more people. Colonel Stryker has become an outcast. Does the president want to see me? The president must have sensed Tang Feng's threat before making a decision. Colonel Stryker was overjoyed after receiving the president's order, as if he was grasping at a straw that saved his life before he died, and continued to speak. He has already lost power. Although the Black Queen has given up chasing and killing, the research base has almost disappeared. It belongs to his subordinates, and it is almost dead. Now he only has a few mutant subordinates and some weapons left, which are hidden in the last hidden base that has not yet been discovered. He is like a frightened bird. He has nowhere to hide. He can only pray day and night, hoping that Tang Feng will not find him here. Now, with the full support of the president, he sees the hope of living and the hope that his dreams will come true. He is excited and contacts the president. Sons of Disaster? Sounds better than the so-called Red Demon. Okay. The headquarters of the Hellfire Club. Tang Feng returned here temporarily after the battle with the Blood God. On the second day after the war, I also heard the news of the new nickname. There are rumors all over the world that you are the son of disaster sent by the god of disaster and will bring all kinds of disasters to the world. Car accidents, plane crashes, earthquakes, tsunamis, typhoons. These disasters occurring all over the world are all summoned by you. If you are provoked, the natural disaster of the end of the world will be summoned and everything on the planet will be annihilated. 35 now, both in prestige and intimidation, you surpass Magneto, Eric, Charles, and the others. There are already lunatics who believe in the doomsday theory and regard you as a god on earth, just like they believe in Jesus. And they worship you and believe in you zealously. Like a minstrel, the Black Queen praised Tang Feng with singing phrases. Beside him are the White Queen, Twinkle, Black Bishop Chameleon, White Car Stormwind, and Black Car Sandman. All listened and nodded, agreeing with the Black Queen's words sympathetically. Giggle, Brother is the most powerful. Linger looked at Tang Feng with fascination, proud. Okay, don't praise me. What is the god of the world? He is just a 4th level strongest mutant. 5 If he is a true god in the world, it will not be until now that he has not dealt with the vampire clan and that hateful mad dog, Colonel Stryker. Tang Feng shook his head speechlessly. He was always embarrassed by the compliments of these acquaintances, and quickly changed the subject. The place where Colonel Stryker is hiding is almost confirmed, and it is exactly where you said he is. 99 I didn't expect that he was hiding in Lake Arcalay. If you hadn't said it, I wouldn't have thought of it at all, and I couldn't find him. I'm curious, how did you know? The Dark Queen asked curiously. The information I overheard. Colonel Stryker is good at hiding there, just go and deal with him while there's still some free time. It's not easy to answer Tang Feng. It's impossible to say that it's the information he knows from the movie plot, so he has to be perfunctory. Then, he said, after I leave, help me keep an eye on the vampire clan and tell me immediately if anything happens. If you guessed correctly, the ancestor that the blood god said before he died should be the vampire ancestor, Dracula. The rumored Satan, Cain, and Hell Mephisto is talking about Dracula. Tang Feng didn't dare to underestimate the rumored Dracula. Not surprisingly, there is definitely a strength of level 4 or above. It may be level 4, or it may be level 5. If it is level 5, even if he uses the expected natural disaster power, even if he destroys the vampire clan, he is not confident to kill Dracula. Even if it is level 5, it should only be at the elemental level. It cannot be the top level. If Dracula really had the strength of the top 5, he would not have to sleep for so many years. He would have gone out to cause trouble long ago. If I am not mistaken, the Elder should have taken Dracula. The Elder is the supreme sorcerer who protects the world. As usual, he is responsible for protecting alien space and resisting the invasion of alien planets from the universe. No matter what happens to this planet, as long as it is not a crisis of extinction of all human beings, he will not intervene. Anything that can make the Elder take action is a major event that will make mankind extinct. In Tang Feng's mind, Dracula is the ancestor of vampires and has a strong infectious power. If he is allowed to act recklessly, one day he will transform all human beings into vampires. In ancient times, Dracula could have taken action, trying to create a world where there were only vampires. However, the Elder took action, stopped Dracula 4.7, defeated him, and suppressed him until now. He is also well aware of the existence of the Elder. Even if Tang Feng does something wrong and uses the power of natural disasters, he will carefully control it so that a global disaster does not happen. It would be tragic if the movement was too big and the Elder took action. Even with the power of natural disasters, he is not confident to deal with the Elder. Unless he continues to become stronger and becomes a level 5 mutant, he will surely win over the Elder. The use of the geocentric pole shift caused a global gravitational chaos. Although the movement was not very large and quickly calmed down, it was a threat to the safety of all human beings after all. To be honest, the Elder also had a reason for acting. Tang Feng has always felt uneasy in his heart, so he was worried that the Elder would suddenly appear and attack him. Chapter 87, The End of the Road. While waiting anxiously, Tang Feng was relieved that he hadn't seen the Elder appear until now. It stands to reason that the Elder hasn't appeared until now, so there shouldn't be any thoughts of making a move. Worried about letting him go, he was a little helpless again. His strength was still not strong enough. Even if he was a 4th level mutant, what would happen to an overlord of the planet? On this planet, there is the Elder, the overlord of the universe, pressuring him. Not to mention, there is the God King, Odin, who is also the overlord of the universe. Although he is old and his strength has declined, he is still a tiger and can teach Tang Feng to be a man at any time. TSK, for the time being, I can't afford it. Let's go for a while, and then we'll talk about it when we reach level 5. Tang Feng stopped thinking about the problems, but acted again. With the help of the Black Queen to keep an eye on the vampire family, he could temporarily take some time to deal with the Mad Dog Striker. Hey, there's an unexpected piece of news that you never expected. Just now, There was a piece of information from your subordinates, which also reported Colonel Stryker's hideout, which is the same place we were searching for. According to our intelligence personnel, this information is very likely to have been secretly revealed by the President. 35 Before Tang Feng left, the Black Queen unexpectedly received a message from her subordinate. She said with a smile, affirming, "Ha ha ha, it's really surprising. 09, I thought that even if the President and these people didn't help Colonel Stryker, they wouldn't get into trouble." Tang Feng shook his head in surprise and said, "Your decision is not surprising. With the power you are displaying now, if you take action, it will be a natural disaster. Who would dare to provoke you? It's too long." It has already become clear that Colonel Stryker is no longer your opponent at all, and letting him stay alive will only provoke you again and again, and then it may be a natural disaster that will once again cause a world disaster. In that way, you might as well kill Colonel Stryker, and there won't be as much. The White Queen rested her chin on one hand, and her posture was very charming. The analysis said, "This kind of practice is the habit of those in higher positions. If something goes wrong and trouble is caused, one person will be thrown out to take the blame." 39 Twinkle pouted and said with contempt, "It's for the best. No one wants to help Colonel Stryker anymore, so he won't escape this time. Come on." Tang Feng smiled and narrowed his eyes. He was in a good mood. When he thought he was about to kill Colonel Stryker, he couldn't wait and said to Flicker. Blink nodded, opened the space channel, and left with Tang Feng and Linger. Arkley Lake, located in the country Y, still has a country where the Queen reigns. In this large lake with rippling water and beautiful surroundings, no one would have thought that there is a research base hidden beneath the dam. Logan, who was once captured, studied here, and thus became Wolverine, is now amnesiac, and would not be able to remember, nor would he remember Colonel Stryker, the bastard, without Charles' help. Tang Feng had seen the movie and knew about this base, so when he asked the Black Queen to help him hunt down Colonel Stryker, he specifically ordered her to abandon this base, pretend that she didn't find it, and let people monitor the situation here. Be on the lookout for possible sightings of Colonel Stryker. Just like fishing, if the base is almost gone and there is only one base left and it has not been discovered, there is a high probability that it will be selected and hidden here. Tang Feng bets that if he doesn't do this, it will be really difficult to find Colonel Stryker, a hidden mouse. Fortunately, he got it right. As soon as he walked out of the spatial passage, Tang Feng immediately extended the detection field, covering the entire lake. Through the thick walls, under the dam, a secret base was seen by him. Colonel Stryker was also seen. Even from a black and white perspective, Tang Feng can recognize Colonel Stryker's understanding, hatred, and ashes. Finally found. Tang Feng exhaled slowly, with a seemingly calm tone, with a deep murderous aura. Go in." Blink nodded and disappeared with the two of them. The next moment, they entered a certain place in the base. Who? It turned out that there was a team of 5 soldiers patrolling here, and they immediately noticed the appearance of the spatial passage. Tang Feng's 3 figures. Al. A leading soldier pointed a gun at the 3 of Tang Feng and raised the alarm to the roar machine. Tang Feng narrowed his eyes coldly, and the calamity swept forward like a tide, killing 5 people on the spot. There are also mutant comrades here. You are responsible for rescuing them. I will go alone with Colonel Stryker. 99 Pay attention to safety. If there is an emergency, leave first. Don't worry about me. Even if the dam breaks, the 10,000 ton or 10,000 ton lake water will not kill me. Tang Feng pointed in a direction, and after giving instructions to the 2 women, he ran. The calamity enveloped him, recklessly, breaking through the alloy walls blocking the way along the way, rushing straight towards the direction of the Colonel Stryker. With the power of the 4th level, calamity is also the characteristic of destruction, and the protection ability is very powerful, so Tang Feng is not afraid of the dam breaking and the lake water being pressed down. The ruthless talk of water and fire is simply a joke to him. If the dam breaks and the lake water spills out, how many towns and cities will suffer and how many people will drown because of this? It won't matter so much. Tang Feng couldn't wait to rush to the Colonel. Stryker, Mad Dog, here I come. In the base, Tang Feng's shout of 900 spread everywhere, and the continuous echoes broke the calm. It's over. Colonel Stryker stood in the surveillance room, his face pale, his eyes blank, and he desperately looked at a surveillance video, which was Tang Feng's figure rushing towards him. "Sir, he's coming, let's run." The men remember the fear. Escape? Can you escape there? Have you escaped? There is no chance of escape. Go all of you and activate Weapon X for me. Whether Virus X has been successfully developed or not, prepare it for me. All of you, along with the Sentinel that is under development, will be brought to me. Even if I die, I won't make you feel better. Colonel Stryker, with red eyes, looked at the men beside him and shouted frantically. Yes, the men took their orders in a tragic manner. As Colonel Stryker said, there was no way out and they could only fight to the death. "Stryker, here I come." An alloy wall was broken by a ferocious hole. Tang Feng walked out, looked up, and saw Colonel Stryker waiting for him, smiling, full of murderous intent. Chapter 88. The enemy who knows Tang Feng best. Tang Feng. Colonel Stryker gritted his teeth and called out the name, staring at Tang Feng, eager to eat his flesh and drink his blood. Everything about him was destroyed by Tang Feng. Tang Feng was also keeping an eye on Colonel Stryker, and when he thought of all the conspiracies he had made before, he couldn't contain his anger. The two enemies who were hostile to each other finally met for real today. There is only one outcome today, one life and one death. How did you find this place? By the way, are you doing this on purpose? Let the Black Queen deliberately pretend not to have discovered this space. In fact, you have already discovered this space. Just wait for me to fall into the trap. 5. Colonel Stryker asked questions, and then asked and answered with a shocked expression. With his IQ, he quickly thought of suspicious places. In fact, he had already guessed the problems that might be discovered. It's just that there is no way to escape, and this important base is left. By chance, I decided to hide here. Sure enough, luck is impossible, and this choice ruined his life. You're right. This base is reserved for me, waiting for you to enter the urn. You don't have to regret too much, even if you didn't stay this time. You escaped again. Next time you won't have the chance to hide again. No one is willing to help you, and everyone wants you to die, even if you always trust them. Chairman, too, before I set off, I received a message about you hiding here. Guess who told me? Tang Feng leaned against the alloy wall and said slowly, the person to be killed is right in front of him, and he is confident that he will not escape for him. Instead, Tang Feng is in no hurry. He delays for a while, making him feel more desperate and tormented. Ha, 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 ha. Colonel Stryker's face was bleak. He guessed the meaning of Tang Feng's words, laughed softly, and finally laughed wildly up to the sky. Extremely sad. I should have thought that the president contacted me for no reason and wanted to support me with supplies, belongings, and everything. He was willing to support me behind the scenes and let me continue to fight against you. His reason is that your threat is too great, so I must find a way to check and balance you, and ultimately kill you. Maybe I was too conceited, and even if I noticed something wrong, I didn't consider it carefully, so I just believed what he said. 35. Colonel Stryker said, mockingly, that the president had betrayed him and dealt him a great blow. Although it was because of his hatred of mutant, he worked so hard for the president. But no matter how he said it, I have also worked hard for the president, always obeying orders and never disobeying orders. In the end, he didn't expect that, just because Tang Feng, not only no longer protected him, but resolutely betrayed him after he lost power. I think the president and those people are afraid of you and don't want to provoke you, because they're afraid that you'll summon a doomsday-like natural disaster. I've already lost power. They're afraid that I'll do something crazy in a moment of desperation and make you angry. Even if there's only a small chance, they won't dare to gamble, so they betray me like an abandoned son. But in fact, they don't need to be afraid at all. I know you. Ever since you awakened the mutant power, I've been understanding you from all aspects and analyzing your personality. I know that you're a very caring person. As long as your own sister is still alive, and the person you care about is still alive, you won't do crazy actions to destroy the world. The facts are beyond my expectations. With your current natural disaster power, you can destroy all humans at any time and whenever you want. But you didn't. Even if you destroyed a city, no, you never thought about it. Only when dealing with vampires can you let go of your hands and feet. Otherwise, you usually try to restrain the power of natural disasters and not act recklessly. No matter how cruel, ruthless, or evil those people say you are, the real you is actually still kind. The reason why you've become like this, everyone yells, hits, curses, hates, and is afraid, all because of my strength. Ha ha ha, yes, it was I who forced you to take the path of being a villain. You must hate me. Colonel Stryker kept whistling and yelling, venting his fear of facing death, took a few steps back, supported the table with one hand, stabilized his trembling body, laughed wildly, and spoke to stimulate Tang Feng. Even if he died, it wouldn't make Tang Feng feel better. Tang Feng clenched his fists tightly, his anger surged wildly, his veins were exposed one by one, and he was panting heavily. He couldn't help it, he was really angry and wanted to tear Colonel Stryker to pieces on the spot. There is a saying that is true, the person who knows you best is your enemy. There was no doubt that what Colonel Stryker said was correct. He knew Tang Feng thoroughly and knew him better than Tang Feng himself. You're right, all along. Whether I'm worried about my sister, or I'm worried about the elder, or I'm unwilling, I've suppressed my power and didn't want to do something that would destroy the city and destroy the world. Vertical bar. Don't look at everything I've done before, it's very ruthless. In fact, I've always been restrained. I don't dare to let go, and only when dealing with vampires, I let go of my restraint and be ruthless. 95. Even so, my idea is to compromise. I want to use vampires to deter and warn them, don't try to provoke me. Anyone who wants to be harmful to my sister won't dare to make another move because of their scruples. Tang Feng put a hand on his forehead, suppressing his anger. Colonel Stryker's words were right. He touched him, smiled bitterly, and said, as long as there are people, there will be weaknesses. I am not a saint, just an ordinary person with strength. I still can't do it. Abandon everything, just want to live happily and happily. 99. For me, if I am the only one left in the world, no relatives, no familiar people, I will feel lonely and sad, promised, fresh and bright. I don't know what my future self will think, at least for now. That's what I think. As my enemy, you see me so clearly, I admire you very much. In this way, I will not let you go. If you escape this time, with you as the enemy, I will have trouble sleeping and eating. Tang Feng took a deep breath, and when he finished speaking, he straightened up and walked towards Colonel Stryker, calamity emerging in his hands. HMPH, even if you die, I will break your teeth. Colonel Stryker gritted his teeth, stared at Tang Feng, waved his hand, and said, come out, give it to me. As his words fell, a nearby door opened, and more than 100 soldiers rushed out one after another, armed with guns and cannonballs, and attacked Tang Feng. Behind the soldiers, there is a secret weapon that Colonel Stryker prepared for Tang Feng. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. 6 weapons, put it in. A soldier shouted loudly, followed by 2 soldiers holding jet guns, aiming at Tang Feng, emitting a silver-gray gas. This gas is the result of hasty research by the X virus. It is only harmful to mutants. It does not need to be inhaled, just touches the skin, which can effectively suppress the mutant's ability. After testing, the higher the level of the variant ability, the shorter the suppression time. At the level of the 3rd level mutant, it can only be suppressed for about 3 minutes. If it is a level 4 mutant, there is no test target, that is, it is not sure whether it will have any effect. Since it is only aimed at mutants, for ordinary people, this gas is harmless, but it smells bad. Colonel Stryker and others did not wear gas masks. Colonel Stryker stared at Tang Feng, praying in his heart, hoping that the gas would have some effect. I am afraid that he can only suppress it for a second or two, and he can win the odds. The result disappointed him. Tang Feng snorted coldly. No matter what kind of attack it is, the calamity will protect the body, and all evil will not invade. Ignoring the surrounding gas, he rushed towards Colonel Stryker. At the same time, he waved his hands and punched a few times. The calamity was like a rude and arrogant long snake, quickly killing the soldiers blocking the way. It is not a spacious monitoring room. The soldiers went to the 900s to follow. They came out from behind the door like moths to the fire and attacked Tang Feng. The stations were very dense. Kill a large army of soldiers. In less than a minute, all the soldiers who dared to attack were all dead, and only a dozen or 20 soldiers were left. Demon, it's the devil. We can't kill him at all. We'll die in vain. I don't want to die. The surviving soldiers were in a state of mental collapse. They screamed in fear, dropped their weapons and ran towards the door behind them, trying to escape. Tang Feng raised his eyebrows and stopped chasing him because someone had already helped him. A series of miserable voices appeared, and the soldiers fell to the ground one by one, dying without a break, and the people who killed them were either others or their own. A total of 6 figures walked out from behind the door, killing all the soldiers who wanted to escape and passed by without mercy. First, a woman came out. She was the dead woman. Like Wolverine, she had a powerful self-healing ability. The bones in her body were also replaced with adamantium, but it was not the original version, it was just a secondary version. Then came 3 tall and burly men with expressionless faces, one with a long knife, one with a large sword, and one with a short spear, all made of minor adamantium. They are super soldiers made with the serum they obtained from General Ross. However, the serum is not perfect. Even if Colonel Stryker's means can make the 3 of them have the strength comparable to Captain M, the fatal flaw is that they will not survive for a month. The 5th figure is a thin white man with a long knife in both hands. He wears the same glasses as Cyclops Scott and black tights, which is conducive to acceleration. It is Weapon X, with 3 skills: Regeneration, Extreme Speed, and Cyclops, all of which are 3rd level. The last figure, which is not a living person, is a robot, with a silver-white streamlined body, the whole body shining with the color of steel. The electronic eyes are aimed at Tang Feng, judging the identity of the mutant, according to the database file, analyzing the nature of the skill and the corresponding means. This robot is Sentinel, but it is still immature. It cannot change the skill according to the enemy's variant, and it can transform and restrict the skill at will. There are not so many Sentinels, and it can be combined with it to fight the enemy. It has a variety of skill variants: freezing, fire, lightning, speed, magnetic field control, Cyclops, a total of 6 kinds of skill. Any 3rd level mutant faced it, and it was a one-touch defeat. Charles, who only knows the power of the mind, can only be caught on his face, because he is a robot, and he is not afraid of the power of the mind at all. Only Jin's psychic power, a jet, the kind of phoenix force that can destroy matter, can destroy Sentinel. Because of the control of the magnetic field, even if Magneto Eric were to confront Sentinel, it would take some effort to solve one. In the reversal of the future, there are so many Sentinels that even Magneto Eric can only run away. These 6 weapons are the secret weapons that Colonel Stryker used every means to prepare for Tang Feng. First, there are 2 laser beams. Weapon X and Sentinel shot first. Tang Feng raised the corner of his mouth, pushed forward with one hand, and with a push, the calamity flowed out, forming a circular shield in the shape of Captain M, blocking the laser beam. No matter how powerful the laser beam is, the calamity shield will still stabilize Mount Tai. Clang! The sound of the 2 steel claws colliding caused sparks to appear. The dead woman took advantage of Tang Feng's attention and attacked from the side. A knife, a sword, a short spear, followed by 3 super soldiers. The troublesome guy. Tang Feng muttered to himself, and the calamity surged out, automatically blocking all attacks. The sound of crisp corrosion could be heard, and the secondary adamantium slowly melted under the erosion of the disaster. It's just that the speed is not fast. When the dead woman and the 3 soldiers withdraw their weapons, the source of the calamity disappears and the erosion immediately stops. Compared to the original length, a centimeter or two less is nothing at all. The dead woman's claws can regenerate like the golden steel wolf, and they will not cause him any trouble. Adamantium? It's really tough, Tang Feng thought to himself. This is the first time he has seen a metal that can fight back against the calamity. According to the performance of the secondary adamantium, the original metal will be stronger, and it may not be corroded at all by the catastrophic power of the fourth level. Shhhhhhh. Only the sound of roar running was heard, and the figure was completely invisible. Weapon X used extreme speed and attacked. Tang Feng was a little distracted as his eyes flashed. Without his control of the disaster, he voluntarily protected his back and blocked the two long knives. Sizzling. Immediately afterwards, the sound of the collision between the long knife and the calamity continued to appear, and within a few seconds, Weapon X did not know how many attacks it launched. Lightning, freezing, flames, surging and surging. Sentinel received the laser beam and attacked. Weapon X retreated for a while, and the dead woman and the three super soldiers hurriedly retreated far away. Do you want to go? Tang Feng frowned, and the calamity rushed in, surrounding him in groups, blocking the lightning, frostbite, and flames. At this moment, through the detection field, I noticed that Colonel Stryker was sneaking towards the door, trying to escape. He smiled. Escape, escape, go where you can escape, struggle desperately, feel despair. Chapter 90, Motorcycle and Wheelchair Chase Competition. Puffy puff. Tang Feng was in no hurry to chase after Colonel Stryker. He had already locked his figure through the detection field. Even if it was a little late, it didn't matter. He dealt with these weapons first. The first is the dead woman and the three super soldiers. These four are the weakest. Even if there are weapons made by secondary adamantium, their bodies are very fragile relative to the calamity. Tang Feng's calamity spread violently, leaving no room for people to dodge, and enveloped a large space at once. These four people screamed and turned into dust. Only the dead woman left a cyborg, which was slowly worn away in the erosion of the disaster and will not be completely destroyed for the time being. It's your turn. Tang Feng stood head-on, without squinting, under the detection field. He locked two figures running at high speed. Cyclops beams attacked from two directions respectively. X-Weapon and Sentinel simply ignored what Tang Feng was saying and simply fired silently. Tang Feng spread his hands on both sides, condensing the calamity shield, and as soon as he blocked the laser beam, he felt that there were constantly flashing figures around him, constantly attacking him. Hey, the speeders are a problem, but don't think I can't do anything about you. Tang Feng frowned, took a deep breath, and suddenly shouted. The entire calamity erupted, covering the entire monitoring room at once. To deal with the speeders, it is best to cover them with a wide range of attacks in a narrow space, or create obstacles, trap the speeders in groups, and trap turtles in the urn. When dealing with Quicksilver, Tang Feng used the method of trapping turtles in the urn. This time, he fought against two weapons with the extreme speed ability, who were in the monitoring room, using a large area attack. The sizzling sound kept coming, and I saw that under the cover of the disaster, the speed of the two running figures slowed down. Sentinel is a hard metal body, which can withstand a little time in the face of the erosion of the disaster. As for Weapon X, even if it has the ability to regenerate, it can't keep up with the speed of the destruction of the catastrophe, and the body is slowly and steadily turning into dust. Go to hell. Tang Feng didn't have the patience to wait for the calamity to slowly grind them to death. With a loud shout, he raised his hands high, and each one condensed into a calamity sphere. Each sphere is about 3 meters in diameter, and the large ones are like super large jade spiral pills. Even without the power of the spiral pill spinning, it is not necessary for the destructive power of the disaster, as long as it can hit the target. The two super calamity spheres were thrown out by Tang Feng and flew towards the two figures. Sentinel and Weapon X sensed the fatal danger and instinctively wanted to avoid it, but the surrounding disaster seemed to have spirituality, forming a few thick, not delicate snakes, wrapping them tightly. HMPH, you want to hide? Do you think I didn't think of that? Tang Feng said smugly, His hands were empty and he controlled the Calamity to entangle them. He didn't relax his control until the Calamity sphere hit them. The awakening skill has existed for more than 3 months, and he has experienced a tough battle with the Blood God. These days are not in vain. Tang Feng's control of the power of disaster has become more and more proficient. He is getting closer and closer to the step of fine control. Boom. There were 2 muffled sounds, and a strong wind blew from the ground. These are 2 Calamity spheres violently bursting apart, and the power is extremely powerful. Weapon X couldn't bear it at first, and it was useless to have the ability to regenerate. It turned into dust, and the 2 defective long knives that had been corroded by the disasters fell to the ground. Then there was Sentinel, whose body disappeared 2/3 and fell to the ground, already destroyed. There are still stumps left, and it seems that the metal should have been infiltrated with adamantium. Tang Feng held back his Calamity, kicked the defective metal body with his feet, muttered, and quickly walked away, chasing in the direction where Colonel Stryker fled. Roar, roar, roar. Colonel Stryker kept looking back as he ran, afraid that Tang Feng would suddenly catch up with him. When he came to a door and saw that Tang Feng still hadn't caught up with him, he was slightly relieved. He didn't have time to think about it. He hurriedly entered the password and walked in. Unfortunately, you are not a 4th-level mutant, not his opponent. Inside the door was a bald man with dementia in a wheelchair, who was Colonel Stryker's son. He looked at his son with complicated eyes, and after finishing speaking, he entered the password on the other side of the alloy wall and opened a hidden secret passage. He looked back and found that Tang Feng was chasing after him. He was very excited. Seeing the hope of escape, he quickly pushed the wheelchair and was about to enter the secret passage with his son. Go ahead. At this moment, the sound of heavy and powerful footsteps came from afar, echoing like the footsteps of the god of death. Number 7. Colonel Stryker's expression changed and he struggled for a while. Finally, he chose a ruthless decision. He pushed the wheelchair towards the door of coming time and ordered, if you see anyone coming, no matter who it is, use the skill to attack immediately. 0. For flowers. After hurriedly speaking, he ran into the secret passage, then closed the secret door, and before leaving, he pressed a remote control to start the countdown of the base's self-destruction. TSK TSK TSK, what a cruel father. Tang Feng shook his head and said, he withdrew the Calamity and let the crystal dust drift away. A mere ghost master who only has the ability of psychic attack. He is an insane person, and it is impossible to delay even a few seconds. Tang Feng has passed through the detection field, always paying attention to Colonel Stryker. He also noticed his small movements. He tilted his head and thought, and immediately had the answer. Is it still the same old method, self-destruction? Blink. Did you understand? It's about to explode here. Go to the monitoring room first, remove all the adamantium on the ground, and then immediately take Linger away. Tang Feng took out the communicator and communicated with Blink. After giving the order, he continued to hunt. This time self-destruction. Don't be too hasty. Colonel Stryker didn't go far. Moreover, eating a needle will increase your wisdom. Since he entered here, he has carefully searched the exploration field and discovered the self-explosion device in advance. In his scene, the energy of the self-explosion has gradually increased and has not yet reached the most intense and explosive level. Therefore, he was not in a hurry at all. He was still thinking about the adamantium and ordered Blink to take the bag away. The maze is well designed and has a lot of ideas. As soon as you enter the dark passage, there are 3 intersections in front of you. In the observation of the exploration field, the 3 intersections have passed a certain distance, and each of them will split into 3 intersections, and then there will be intersections that branch off. Simply a maze. Even if ordinary people find this place, they really can't catch up with Colonel Stryker. With the wisdom of his cunning fox, he should have also thought of methods of tracking scent and traces, and there should be preventive measures. Tang Feng has been closely watching Colonel Stryker's figure, knowing which intersection is the right one. The corners of his mouth raised slightly, and he sat on a wheelchair that was specially left behind. With Calamity spraying and quickly catching up, Colonel Stryker cheated and prepared a motorcycle a long time ago, but he couldn't catch up with the rush, so he could only use a wheelchair. Chapter 91. The idea is dominated. Boom. There was a dull sound in the distance, followed by the sound of rolling floods, and the moment of self-destruction arrived. The base exploded, the dam burst, and the lake water poured out and rushed into the nearby towns and cities, as if it were a huge flood, destroying everything along the way. Well, I understand. It's good that you retreated in time to be safe. Just wait. When I kill Colonel Stryker, I will notify you to come pick me up. After Tang Feng finished speaking, he put away the communicator and sat on the wheelchair with his feet up, his hands stretched forward, and the force of disaster spread out, causing a momentum, which pushed the wheelchair to fly backwards at an extremely fast speed. He was hanging the motorcycle the whole time. Rear end by the tail, he is now facing the motorcycle, and the wheelchair is running backwards, so that he can sit comfortably and smoothly, and only with the help of the sensing field can he be so handsome. The quality of the wheelchair is also 903 is indispensable. After all, he is the son of Colonel Stryker, and the wheelchair that Master Illusion sits on is really not an ordinary wheelchair, but a high-tech wheelchair, with good performance and high quality. If it weren't for adamantium being rare and precious, Tang Feng really suspected that adamantium could be found in wheelchairs. In this way, with the help of a wheelchair, he doesn't have to call Roar to detour. Hanging far behind Colonel Stryker, he didn't let him stop, leaving him in a state of desperate escape until he collapsed. This is a mental torture, which is more painful than physical torture. Out of the maze, have you already prepared a fighter plane? That's not possible. With a wheelchair, if the motorcycle can catch up, the fighter plane can't catch up. Tang Feng didn't wait for Colonel Stryker to reach the place where the fighter planes were parked and see him one step ahead. He squinted his eyes and smiled, and said softly, "Landslide." The target of the disaster is the front. No, it should be said that it is the fighters from the rear. 1 kilometer away, the fighter plane was parked in the belly of the mountain. There was no warning. Suddenly, the sound of clack and clack appeared in succession. Finally, with a bang, the mountain collapsed and the fighter plane was completely buried inside. Since the exit of the maze is connected to the mountainside where the fighter planes are located, the exit of the maze can be considered blocked. After about a minute, when Colonel Stryker arrived at the exit, what caught his attention was that the exit was blocked by rocks. His face was pale, his heart was gray, and he had no intentions. He heard the movement of the landslide from a distance. Even if he didn't know the specific reason, he could guess that Tang Feng had taken action and things would not go as he wished. Sure enough, when he finally reached the exit of the maze, the exit was blocked. He had nowhere to escape. It was true despair. That's not right. Since Tang Feng appeared in front of him, there is no way to survive. He is simply unwilling to die. He tried every means to escape, but in the end he still couldn't escape. Colonel Stryker got off the motorcycle with a blank expression, took off his helmet, threw it away, and looked into the distance. It didn't take long for the sound of the wheelchair to get closer and closer, until the figure appeared in front of Tang Feng's back. Okay, I've caught up, so the question is, how do I brake? Ha ha ha, it seems that I don't have the brakes on. The people behind should pay attention to avoid. The wheelchair is about to run a red light. Tang Feng's cheerful voice came, and he jumped off the wheelchair, relying on the protection of the disaster, and landed safely. But the wheelchair continued to move forward, brushed against Colonel Stryker, and directly hit and was blocked by a rock. Export. With a bang, the impacted gravel splashed everywhere, and a small stone brushed the side of Colonel Stryker's face, causing a blood stain. Oh, the wheelchair ran a red light and accidentally hurt you. I'm really sorry. You said, is there a will of God in the darkness, but there is a gravel that hurts you. Won't it be your poor son who died, cursing you? 35 Tang Feng stretched his waist and walked towards Colonel Stryker unhurriedly, jokingly. Seeing that he could kill Colonel Stryker, he tortured him before, making him feel the fear before death. Now Tang Feng's mood is really happy. Hearing his son's words, Colonel Stryker's dull eyes fluctuated, and finally he couldn't maintain his dull state, and cursed as soon as he opened his mouth. You mutant who shouldn't exist in the world, whether it is you or other mutants, one day you will be annihilated. You mutants shouldn't exist, you are aliens. We humans will not tolerate your existence, and will make a decision in the future to completely destroy you. Enough. With a cold voice, Tang Feng stepped forward and punched Colonel Stryker in the abdomen, interrupting his words. Your words will not come true. In this world, after all, the strong are respected. With strength, everything can be changed. Just like me, it is precisely because of my strong power that I can chase you down and kill you without scruples. No one dares to stand up to protect you and say a righteous word for you. 99. You're finished. After he finished speaking, he no longer wanted to listen to Colonel Stryker's nonsense. He smiled grimly, stepped on him hard, and the sound of breaking eggs came. This is the most severe pain and the most humiliating torture for a man. No matter how tough Colonel Stryker was, his face was still blue, his hands tightly covered the wound, and he rolled on the ground, dying in pain. Does it hurt? Ahaha, it's not over yet, don't worry, I won't let you die so happily. I heard that the fingers are connected to the heart, let me check it. Tang Feng showed a devilish smile, and what he did next was something that people wouldn't dare to watch. For a long time, Colonel Stryker's torment finally stopped. Comfortable, Tang Feng shouted into the sky, feeling very comfortable and refreshing. In the words of self-cultivation, his thoughts have been mastered, his inner demons are gone, his strength has increased greatly, and 4.7 has become an immortal and a Buddha. Okay, here's a gift for you. Looking at Colonel Stryker, who was numb, his eyes were numb and his mind had collapsed, Tang Feng used his calamity to roll into his body, finally giving him a good feeling. Colonel Stryker's flawed body is quickly turning into dust, because the destructive force of the disaster is too strong. Even if the body is destroyed, the brain still remains sober for a moment. Seeing his complete disappearance, Colonel Stryker regained clarity in his eyes at the last moment and looked deeply at Tang Feng, implying a kind of expectation. Tang Feng didn't realize what he was expecting and what was hidden in it. After killing Colonel Stryker, he felt bored, as if he was empty and didn't want to do anything after finishing it. Let's go back to the headquarters. Chapter 92. Tang Feng's indescribable concealment. Back at the headquarters, Tang Feng was even more empty. My future surname Fu. It's gone. It's completely cold. 35. Tang Feng hid in the bathroom, sighing softly, wanting to cry without tears, only to see some very slight sizzling noises in the flowing toilet, which seemed to be the sound of calamity corroding objects. Since the battle with the blood god, Tang Feng has had a bad feeling. Since he is busy dealing with Colonel Stryker, he is in no hurry to experiment. After killing Colonel Stryker, the vampires have not yet moved, and finally have free time to observe the changes in their bodies. The results were bad. The calamity transformation has begun to penetrate the bone marrow, and even the blood contains traces of the calamity, and the sweat, etc., also have calamity. In other words, although it looks like a human, it is actually a body of calamity energy. As mentioned earlier, if the calamity is not destroyed, it is immortal. Speaking of which, this state is really mysterious. It is obviously a body of calamity energy, but it still maintains the various senses of the body when it is a human being. Some users of natural abilities similar to one, they are still human bodies on the surface. Everything looks normal, but in fact, they can be elementalized at any time. Definitely, to achieve elementalization, the transformation must be completely completed. Therefore, even if he becomes a 9-element body, the catastrophe transformation will not turn him into a wishless saint. There is only one major problem. If Tang Feng wants to have a relationship with a woman and solve the physiological problem, the force of the disaster will erode the woman's body. Although it is a small amount of force of the disaster, it is directly eroded from the body. In this way, a woman who is not physically strong and whose regeneration ability is not strong will not really be able to kiss Tang Feng. Even though Linger's body was reshaped, it still did not meet the requirements. In order not to hurt her, Tang Feng had not kissed her since the blood god battle until now. Tang Feng looked at himself in the mirror sadly, only to feel that his heart was dead, his future was hopeless, and he could do nothing. Yo, what's the use of this iron bar? She recalled a song from a previous life with empathy, which was exactly in line with her situation. Brother, Are you still inside? At this moment, Linger's words came from outside and knocked on the door. Because Tang Feng had been in the bathroom for too long, she was shocked. Oh, it's okay, it's just diarrhea. Tang Feng hurriedly cleaned up her mood, slapped her face, forced a smile, opened the door, and said as if nothing had happened. Linger was puzzled by her eyes. And she had diarrhea? She looked up and down at Tang Feng. She was pure and innocent, but not stupid. Would Tang Feng have diarrhea? Even she didn't believe it. Cough. Let's go. Let's go to the White Queen and see if the vampires have taken action. Tang Feng also knew that the reason she was looking for was unreliable, so he coughed a few times and walked away as he spoke. Brother, wait, we haven't had it for days. Linger chased after him, pulling Tang Feng's clothes with her small hands. Her face was rosy, and she was waiting for him. Tang Feng's face froze. His heart was congested. He had something to hide, and if he wanted to say something, he didn't have the face to say, I can't do it anymore. These words come. No, it's not that I can't. It should be said that Linger can't bear it. He shook his head violently, refuting his own words. Okay, I know I've left you out these days. Just wait, let me finish off the vampire clan first. Alas, the first ancestor that the blood god said before he died made me very worried, like being stuck in my throat, not eating well, not sleeping well, and I'm not in the mood for the time being. 35 Tang Feng pretended to be sad and left in a hurry, looking at the embarrassed back. It was like running away. 3 days later, since he couldn't kiss Linger anymore, and hesitated without explaining the reason, Tang Feng felt that every day was extremely long, and he subconsciously avoided Linger every day. He was afraid that he would not be able to control the impulse and hurt Linger. The most frustrating thing for Tang Feng is that the White Queen, the Black Queen and the others, always come to tease him. They are all charming, seeking to bully him. This day is over. Tang Feng hid in the room alone, covered his head with a pillow, and turned around frantically. The White Queen can turn into a diamond. Can the body bear it? The Black Queen can absorb vitality, regenerate the body, and have magic power. Probably. If it is a Phoenix Awakening Force piano, is it okay? Tang Feng turned around and stared at the ceiling with blank eyes, thinking wildly in his mind. Forgive him. He has lived the life of a sage for many days, and there are so many beautiful women around him. It won't work like this. We must find a solution. 35 Tang Feng sat down, frowning and thinking. It's not a good idea to change women, even if it's great. But what about Linger? Ignore it? Definitely not. The root cause is to solve the problem of catastrophic erosion. If I control the force of the disaster more deeply and take a step of subtle control, can I solve this problem? 35 Tang Feng raised his right hand. The calamity is rising. His eyes flickering. His face is certain, whether it is useful or not. This is the only way so far. Brother, the Black Queen sister sent a message, saying that the vampire family has made a move. At this moment, Linger knocked on the door. Tang Feng frowned, retracted the calamity in his hand, immediately stood up, opened the door, nodded towards Linger, and said, Come on. Are the vampires in action? As soon as Tang Feng saw the black man, he immediately questioned, and there was the White Queen beside him, and Blink was also waiting at the side. Yes, according to our spy's report, the most prestigious Countess Stanikitilos of the vampire family is currently leading about 1,000 vampire subordinates to this 903rd route. 5 We analyzed that the ancestor of the vampires, Dracula, should be sleeping in this area. The Black Queen nodded solemnly. In the face of great events, she never mocked Tang Feng. She took out a topographic map, pointed to the red circle area drawn on it, and said to Tang Feng, This is located in the Western Hemisphere. Looking at this terrain, is it a desert? Tang Feng took the topographic map and asked with raised eyebrows. Exactly. The Black Queen nodded directly. Okay, this is very good. An empty and uninhabited place. The most suitable place for the final battle. Let it be Dracula's tomb forever. 99 inches. It is also the source of the vampire family's demise. Tang Feng put down the topographic map, patted the table, and said with a sneer, Dracula is not easy to deal with. This time we bring the Black Queen, Storm and the others. Shall we act together? the White Queen cautiously suggested from the side. No, just because Dracula is difficult to deal with, I can't bring you guys along, and with you by my side, I can't stop fighting. In this regard, Tang Feng shook his head and denied it without even thinking about it. When the time came for the decisive battle, the power of the natural disaster that he had long anticipated could finally be used. If Linger, the White Queen and others were nearby, they would definitely affect them, making it difficult for him to use natural disasters. On the contrary, he is alone and can fight back unscrupulously. Chapter 93, Dracula's Awakening Ritual. Even if you don't bring us, at least bring the Black Queen. You should know that the enemy you will face next is the ancestor of the vampire family, known to the world as Kane's Dracula. The White Queen frowned slightly and persuaded, it's because it is Dracula that I have to go alone. Although the Black Queen has 4th level strength, I don't underestimate you. Tang Feng looked at the Black Queen and explained, however, the power of the natural disaster I use this time will be very strong. Even if Dracula has the power of a 5th level mutant, I can endanger his life. If you are by your side, the power of natural disasters will also affect you. With Tang Feng's explanation, the Black Queen and the others no longer insist. They all know how terrifying the power of natural disasters is. Hearing that Tang Feng would use a stronger natural disaster power this time, he retreated after dark, resisting the natural disaster that could threaten the 5th level mutant. He had no confidence at all. Brother, are you sure you can kill Dracula? Seeing that Tang Feng was so serious, Linger asked with concern. I can't kill him successfully, I haven't tried it, and I don't have much confidence. If you really can't win, I think it will also give Dracula a serious injury, so that he can't do evil temporarily and can only recuperate. Don't worry, it's really at the point of defeat. There are blink teleports, and I can retreat safely. Tang Feng comforted Linger. It's not too late. The decision is made. Tang Feng will set off with Twinkle. With blink teleportation speed, he passed through the eastern and western hemispheres in an hour, arriving at the desert where Countess Staniculos gathered 1,000 vampires and where Dracula could sleep. This desert is very wide, and very desolate, thousands of miles uninhabited. Because it was daytime, the vampires temporarily found a dark place where the sun couldn't shine and rested for the time being, and then began to act at night. Okay, you should go far away first. If I need you, I'll let you know to come back. Tang Feng and Blink appeared on a hillside, looking at the desert endless. She waved her hand and told Blink to leave. I'll stay, don't worry, I'll stand by the side to watch the battle and won't interfere with your battle. You don't have to worry about me. If something goes wrong, I'll use teleportation to leave first. Blink shook her head, disobedient, and wanted to stay. Although there is teleportation, she can arrive quickly after receiving Tang Feng's notification. But after all, there is a delay, and it won't be the first time. When Tang Feng notified her to come, it must be very urgent to evacuate. If she delays a little, maybe Dracula will kill her before she arrives. Even if it was a little possible, Twinkle didn't want to risk it, and pursed her lips tightly, rarely violating Tang Feng's words. No, even if you have teleportation and Dracula by your side, there is always danger. 99 Be good, be obedient, I'll be fine, you leave here first. Tang Feng refused very seriously. Just like Linger, she put a hand on Blink's head and coaxed in a gentle tone. One thing Tang Feng didn't make clear. Although I haven't seen the movie about Dracula, I have heard that Dracula will also teleport. Therefore, with the same teleportation ability, Dracula must be more proficient and play more slippery than Blink. Dracula really wanted to hit Blink. There was a good chance that he could do it, and it was difficult for him to stop him. Twinkle was very reluctant, but Tang Feng's decision could not be refused by her, so she had no choice but to obediently leave. Touching separate, promise me that you will be careful about everything, and notify me immediately if there is any danger. Unexpectedly, she appeared on Tang Feng's face, leaving a don't say of separation. After worrying, she held back her embarrassment and left. Tang Feng froze in place, touching his face with one hand. What a pity, what a great opportunity. The weather, the right place, the people. He can't totally restrain himself and ask for more. However, Even saliva is eroded by the calamity, so he can't do it well. Depressed after thinking about it, Tang Feng converged his thoughts. Under the detection domain, the vampire's hiding place was obvious. If he searched carefully, surprisingly, he did not find any life magnetic field belonging to Dracula. Even if he has never seen Dracula, judging from the strength of level 4 or above, his life magnetic field is definitely very strong. No, except for himself, the magnetic field in the distance is the strongest, belonging to the 3rd level. It should be the Countess of Danikitaro's. Moreover, there are about 1,000 life magnetic fields around him, including some beasts and birds in the wilderness. There are no other suspicious life magnetic fields. Could it be that when Dracula is sleeping, he will cover up the life magnetic field emanating from his body at the same time? Tang Feng touched his chin with one hand and guessed the reason. Maybe it is like this. Otherwise, if Dracula was so easy to find, he would have been found long ago when he was sleeping. In this case, we can only wait patiently until the vampire finds the place where Dracula was sleeping, and then we can start to act. Tang Feng thought about it, looked around, and quickly chose a place that could block the sun and sat down. While waiting, I gathered the power of disaster in my hands, practiced control, and passed the time. Practicing calamity control, it is more serious than ever, and it is even more assiduous. This is the only hope related to the future vertical bar surname Fu. Can you not work hard and be serious? When you do something seriously, time passes quickly. Before you know it, the sun sets, night falls, the moon rises quietly, emitting brilliant light, and the stars follow one after another. This night is a good night. The weather is fine. Take action. Tang Feng retracted his calamity, stretched out and looked in the direction of the vampire. I don't know what secret method the vampire used, and soon on a small hillside, he confirmed the place where Dracula slept. Under the leadership of Countess Danikitalos, the vampires were all excited and fanatical. Noah's sake, and drew a magic circle on the spot through the prepared magic materials. Then, she poured the blood bagpacks that had been prepared into the magic circle. Then, 1,000 vampires, including Danikitalos, cut their wrists, let the blood drip, surrounded the magic circle, knelt on the ground, chanted magic words in their mouths, and carried out a clarion call to Dracula ceremony. Tang Feng cautiously approached, but did not get close. As he watched the red light flashing from the magic circle in the darkness, he also used the detection field to firmly lock the bottom of the magic circle. Hence the life magnetic field emitted. 10 minutes passed, but there was still no movement. The vampires were not surprised. They continued to chant the magic words patiently. Tang Feng waited patiently. It was not until half an hour later that something finally changed. Chapter 94, The Bad Plague. While waiting patiently, Tang Feng finally sensed a dark aura suddenly appearing from below the magic circle. Immediately afterwards, this aura rapidly increased from weak to strong, and soon reached the 4th level, still continuing to strengthen. Tang Xinruo took a deep breath and opened his eyes wide. As Dracula woke up, the latent magic that seemed to envelop him completely dissipated. Not only did he sense the magnetic field of life that belonged to Dracula through the sensing domain, but he also saw his body form. In the black and white perspective, Dracula is as thin as a mummified corpse. With the large amount of blood drawn from the magic circle, his body gradually swells and returns to normal. The magnetic field of life is also approaching the 5th level, and there is no sign of stopping. From this point, Tang Feng immediately judged that Dracula really had a 5th level power. Can't wait. Dracula has just woken up. He is not in full bloom, and it is suitable to start taking his life when he is not prepared. Tang Feng has made up his mind. He is not a gentleman who obeys justice and fairness. He is the devil that everyone fears and the sons of disaster that brings destruction to the world. Natural disaster, super plague. Tang Feng stepped out brazenly, strode forward, and stretched out his hands to both sides. The calamity burned like flames, boiling, and the power of natural calamity that had been prepared for use was activated without hesitation. Roar tilde under the night. 903 is inexplicably windy. The bright moonlight also seemed to dim, and dark clouds enveloped, blocking out the stars. The inexplicable sense of danger caused the wild birds, beasts, and insects to scream in panic, trying to escape from this area. Suddenly, the bodies of the birds flying one after another froze and fell directly. The beasts running in the desert also kicked on all fours, fell on the grass, and never got up again. In an instant, the sound of various insects disappeared. The entire desert, ranging from tens of kilometers to hundreds of kilometers, fell into a deathly silence as Tang Feng used natural disasters. Invisible to the naked eye, there is a tiny plague in the surrounding air. It is the power of a super plague, which can wipe out all living things, and can even turn the entire desert into a desert, becoming a place where all life is prohibited from entering. Dead, it can remain unchanged for hundreds of years. Zizizi, even if Tang Feng is a super plague user, he cannot avoid the omnipresent extinction plague eroding his body. Fortunately, calamity is the power drawn from disasters and natural disasters, and it is inherently strong, a jet, resistance to the extinction plague caused by the super plague. In addition, he can also control the extinction plague in a limited way through the natural disaster authority of the super plague, so that these extinction plagues avoid him as much as possible, do not erode his body, and avoid a large consumption of disaster power. If Linger and the other daughters were by his side, he would have to be distracted to control the extinction plague and avoid them. This is also the reason why Tang Feng decided to fight the enemy alone. What's going on? My body is turning into a mummy. It's so itchy, it hurts so much, it roars like shit, it's so uncomfortable. First, a vampire noticed something was wrong. He covered his body in pain, rolled on the ground, screamed, and then like building blocks, one after another vampire did the same, facing great terror. What's the situation? No, my beauty. The glamorous vampire count with bulging front and back, even with third-level strength, can't resist the erosion of the extinction plague. Her hands are drying up, and through the sharp, shiny blade, you can see that her face is drying up and cracking. Very ugly. Ancestor, wake up quickly, help us. 99. The countess fell to the ground, and before she died, she desperately asked Dracula for help. It's no use begging him, because he can't protect himself. A voice was heard. With rustling footsteps, Tang Feng arrived. Yes, it's you, sons of disaster. Tang Feng. Yes, is it your evil hand? The countess turned her head in surprise. As soon as she saw Tang Feng's figure, she immediately guessed the reason and said hatefully, yes, it's me. This is the power of the natural disaster super plague, and it will also be the power to exterminate your vampire clan. Tang Feng said softly, raised a hand, holding it empty. In his sight, countless traces of extinction plague were pouring out from the vampire body and gathering in his hand. Gradually, countless traces of extinction plagues gathered together, like the accumulation of small amounts of sand into a tower. The extinction plagues that were invisible to ordinary people's eyes finally clearly presented a mist-shaped sphere the size of a basketball file. Did you see it? These extermination plagues have been cultivated by you vampires, and then controlled by me, and the effect of your cultivation has become a viral plague that will only destroy vampires. It will no longer be effective on humans or other creatures. 99. Once the power of the super plague is used, it is a plague that can destroy all living beings. However, the extinction plague can mutate, use the authority of natural disaster, and have the goal of cultivation, and then a specific plague can be cultivated. Tang Feng looked at the countess who was about to die and explained in a calm tone, but the content made the countess's soul tremble. In the end, the countess's eyes completely darkened and she died. The extinction plague in her body, after mutating, gathered back into Tang Feng's hands. I just call you the Bat Plague. Tang Feng stared at the spherical plague in his hand, tilted his head to think, and randomly picked a name. Then, with a push of his hand, the Bat Plague spread again. Under the power of natural disasters, these Bat Plagues became 10, 100, 1000, 1000. The speed of reproduction was very fast, and it gradually spread to the world. Vampires all over the world, no matter where they hide, are beginning to face extinction. As long as they have the blood of vampires, no one can escape. Even the half-human, half-vampire daywalker is not immune. Bang! Suddenly, just as Tang Feng let the Bat Plague spread, The ground of the magic circle exploded, like a missile bombardment. The ground collapsed. A black shadow with outstretched wings screamed and rushed towards Tang Feng. A pair of withered claws are long and sharp, and a powerful dark power is blessed on them. Even if Tang Feng had noticed in advance, because he had just used the power of natural disaster and was falling into a weak body, he was still helpless. But the moment he moved, he groaned and was thrown away by the shadow. Blood splashed. Tang Feng's body flew upside down. There was a cross scar in front of Moon Hung, deep bones could be seen, and a dark force was trying to invade his body. The passive guardian of the force of disaster played a role, dispelling the dark force immediately and repairing the wound quickly. As a result, the body transformation by the calamity is once again in depth. Chapter 95. Look who can die. Cough, cough, cough. Tang Feng clutched his wound in pain, weakly stood up from the ground, took a deep breath, and tried to suppress the helplessness. After borrowing the power of the natural disaster, with a firm will, he slowly mobilized the power of the disaster in his body. Even if the state is very bad, he can't give up. The battle is not over yet. Moreover, he was having a hard time at this moment, and Dracula was not having a good time either, perhaps even worse than him. Tang Feng spread his feet, stood up staggeringly, smiled at the shadow in front of him, and was not afraid. Roar! The black shadow roared loudly, its wings spread to both sides, and under the illumination of the moonlight, it finally showed its appearance. I saw that Dracula had gone through the awakening ceremony, and the body had returned to its original state, and returned to a withered state. You can see from the appearance of his body, the dark power and the extinction plague are entangled with each other, both trying to destroy each other, and the two are in a stalemate. This is the first time Tang Feng has dealt with Dracula hiding under the magic circle when he launched the super plague. As for those vampires, it was just an incidental target. As Tang Feng thought, Dracula has the power of level 5. Even the extinction plague caused by the super plague can't kill Dracula the first time, but can only severely injure him. The extermination of the plague is awkward, right? It's not over yet. The mutated bat plague is specially designed to deal with your vampires. I wonder if you can handle it? Tang Feng resisted the pain of the quickly healing wound. He sneered. Before that, because Dracula hid under the magic circle, the spreading bat plague did not invade Dracula for the time being. When it appeared, the bat plague finally began to invade his body. In Tang Feng's view, the extinction plague is in a stalemate with the dark power in Dracula's body. When it encounters the bat plague, is like a river merging with the sea, and quickly turns into a bat plague and continues to attack Dracula. Compared with the characteristics of the extinction plague, the bat plague that specifically targets vampires is easier and more effective in attacking vampires. Even if Dracula has a very powerful dark power, he can no longer stop the invasion of the bat plague. The bat plague began to penetrate the obstruction of the dark power, slowly and steadily invading the blood, heart, various organs, and even the brain. In this case, if Dracula wanted a chance to survive, he had to find a place to sleep and concentrate on eliminating the bat plague. The process might take hundreds of years to completely eliminate the bat plague. This is still Dracula is a 5th level force. With a strong dark power, he can resist the invasion of the super plague. It is also because of Tang Feng's lack of strength that he only used the 4th level ability to launch a super plague. If the level is the same, Tang Feng absolutely believes that Dracula will not survive. Roar! Damn it, what kind of power do you have? If you don't want to die, bring it back for me. Dracula quickly judged that the situation was not good. He had just woken up from his deep sleep and no longer wanted to go back to sleep, so he decided to force Tang Feng with his strength. He roared furiously, flapped his wings, and in an instant, he appeared in front of Tang Feng, grabbed his neck with one hand, lifted Tang Feng up, and lifted his feet off the ground. It is impossible to take back the bat plague. If you have the ability, you can kill me. Tang Feng was not afraid and laughed loudly. Even if he was weak, he was not powerless to fight back. The calamity had passively protected him and was eroding Dracula's hand. Boom! Dracula threw Tang Feng away with a gloomy expression on his face, staring sadly at the palm that was about to be corroded in half. If he were at his usual level, he could easily resist the calamity with the power of darkness. However, all the dark powers are now focused on fighting the bat plague. That is to say, he is also doing what it is from the outside. There is no dark power, only a strong physical quality and regeneration ability. You are the strongest mutant of this era, aren't you? I don't know what kind of grievances you have with our vampire family. These have nothing to do with me. I have been sleeping and have no hatred towards you. 99 So, as long as you regain this power, I promise that I will never hold any resentment towards you and will not try to retaliate against you. Dracula knew his own situation and saw that Tang Feng was protected by a calamity, and was not easy to kill, so he softened his face and said with an innocent look, "Impossible, you lie to ghosts. No, even ghosts can't believe it. I killed your vampire clan, and now I want to kill you again with such great hatred. If you say let it go, let it go. Stop joking. There is only one result today. Either you die or you die." 0. Seeking flowers. Tang Feng touched the imprint on his neck with one hand and refused without thinking. "Damn mutant, shameless, even Apocalypse dare not speak to me like this. You are a mere junior. What the hell? If you don't accept my kindness, you will die." Dracula is like a cat with angry fur. As the ancestor of vampires who lived for a long time, he has witnessed the birth and destruction of countless civilizations, even Apocalypse thousands of years ago. With his power, even Apocalypse fears him and regards him as his enemy in his lifetime. If he hadn't awakened from his sleep and was unprepared, he let Tang Feng solve it. He thought to himself, with his 5th level strength, he could definitely easily crush Tang Feng. 0. The extremely depraved Dracula no longer thought about conspiracies and tricks. First killed Tang Feng, and then continued to sleep, for a long time, to eliminate the bat plague. Roar. Dracula kept flapping his wings, like a demon from hell, flying in the air, descending, speeding up, constantly accelerating, taking risks, summoning some dark power to fight Tang Feng's calamity, trying to kill him. "Do you want to kill me? It's not that easy." Tang Feng roared in his heart, gritted his teeth tightly, raised his spirits, and tried his best to use his weak body, like an exhausted person, fighting hard in a desperate situation. His last breath, with a firm will, never swallowed. Tang Feng endured the pain in his body, put his hands on his head, and let Dracula break through the calamity protection again and again, hurting him. But he still didn't fall. Through the scenting field, he keenly noticed that Dracula had a flaw and immediately punched him. This is a defensive counterattack strategy. Boom. Dracula was blown away by a punch, and his face showed signs of being corroded by the calamity, but his body regeneration ability was also very strong, and he was rapidly recovering. Immediately afterwards, Dracula continued to surround Tang Feng, dark power wrapped around his claws, and kept attacking. Tang Feng gritted his teeth and insisted that with the dark power Dracula was using now, even if he could break through the calamity, it would only hurt him and not kill him. As long as he doesn't die, he will eventually be able to consume Dracula. Keep it up, victory is yours. Spoon. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96 Body Transformation 100%. Tang Feng is really not afraid of the war of attrition, but the calamity is endless and inexhaustible. Dracula didn't know it, but after half an hour of constant offensive, he found that the calamity protecting Tang Feng was still the same as the intensity of the beginning, and there was no sign of being slowly consumed. The situation at the scene was that Tang Feng was in a situation where he was defeated and could only defend and counterattack. It seemed that he would fall at any time. Dracula's face was gloomy, and the dark roar was not good. He knew what he was doing and took the risk of summoning the dark power, which made the invasion of the bat plague faster. If he didn't end the battle quickly, even if he killed Tang Feng, he himself would die. He couldn't accept this result. Even if he lived a long time, he didn't live long enough. Boom. Once again, Dracula stopped attacking and stood on the spot to adjust his breathing, distracted to suppress the bat plague in 903, and at the same time condensed his strength to prepare for a one-hit kill. Roar, roar, roar. Tang Feng lay on his back, gasping for breath. He was so tired, so sleepy, he really wanted to fall down like this and fall asleep. No, I can't do that. This time is a good opportunity. If you don't kill Dracula, next time it won't be as good. There are too many accidents and miracles in the Marvel world, and the ending that is obviously deadly can also be miraculously survived. Tang Feng couldn't guarantee whether Dracula would fall asleep after escaping and concentrate on getting rid of the bat plague. If there is an accident, let Dracula get away with other methods, or get help, in order to get rid of the bat plague faster. Then, Dracula will definitely come for revenge. At this moment, the enemy is in the dark and he is in the light. Not only is he in danger, but Lisa, Linger and others are also in danger. It is too dangerous to let Dracula go. Definitely kill him here. After Tang Feng thought about it, his tired eyes must refocus, exuding a brilliant brilliance, and he stood up staggeringly and firmly. Don't worry so much, it's a matter of time anyway. Come on, Calamity, he roared in his heart, made up his mind, clenched his hands tightly, and the catastrophe boiled violently. In Dracula's shocked eyes, he could see that Tang Feng's body seemed to become transparent, and the whole body was filled with fluid catastrophe. The dark red Calamity turned Tang Feng into a dark red elemental person. This is, Dracula's eyes widened, shocked by Tang Feng's change. From the beginning, Tang Feng resisted the transformation of the force of disaster from the bottom of his heart. Therefore, the transformation of the disaster force into the body has always been passive, so the speed of transformation is not fast. Only during the battle with the Blood God, Tang Feng subconsciously stopped resisting the transformation of the disaster force because he felt the crisis, and the disaster force had to speed up the transformation of the body. From that battle, Tang Feng knew that the transformation of the body by the disaster force could still be accelerated, depending on whether he wanted it or not. At this time, facing Dracula, an unprecedentedly powerful enemy, is very dangerous. He was not blind, and when he saw Dracula's momentum, he knew that he was going to make a big move. If he could not resist, he might be finished. It is not certain that the body can be immortalized and immortalized by the disaster power before the transformation is completed. As a result, if Tang Feng wanted to ensure his survival, he had to go all out. The matter of surname Fu will wait until he is alive, and then slowly find a way. Moreover, he no longer has surname Fu. Tang Feng kept shouting louder and louder, and he felt that whether it was blood vessels, blood, bone marrow, brain, or all parts of the body, with their cooperation, the transformation of the disaster force was like charging a rocket propeller, flying like a rapid. Before Dracula was stunned, before he could react, most of his body had already transformed, and the disaster transformation was finally completed. What a wonderful body! 35. There are also unexpected surprises. Power is constantly pouring into the source, and the weak state is quickly recovered. Tang Feng stood in the same place, with both hands in front of him, clenched and loosened. He could see a strange scene. His left hand was the same as usual, but his right hand turned into a dark red element. Not only that, for a while, the left hand is elementalized, or the head, or half of the body, and finally the whole body is elementalized. Body transformation and elementalization can be performed at will, like an instinct. After the body transformation is completed, the effect brought by elementalization is only one aspect. And, as the power of the disaster increases, the power will continue to increase, endlessly. Because of this, his power level suddenly skyrocketed, approaching the peak of the 4th level, and I believe it is not far from the 5th level. In addition, the physical weakness has also accelerated the recovery. Compared with the previous recovery time, it only takes 1 or 2 hours to completely recover to 0. Even if he has not fully recovered, he now has 30% to 40% of his physical strength, and he can use his calamity to fight against the enemy, and his exhausted mental state is gone. Dracula, come on, let's start the second round. Tang Feng came back to his senses, twisted his neck, clenched his fists, made a cracking sound, and said in a very good mood, "HMPH, although I don't know what happened to you. You recovered in an instant, but it's useless, ignorant mutant. I will let you see the true power of the 5th level now." 35 Dracula let out a grim sneer and no longer hesitated. Feeling the threat from Tang Feng, he could only temporarily let go of the suppression of the bat plague, use all the dark power, use the strongest attack, and try to kill Tang Feng with one blow. Spatial dark tear claw, Dracula's pair of withered claws, placed in a cross, pulled towards Tang Feng with a cold sound. I saw a pair of claws, not only the powerful dark power, but also the traces of splitting space. Along the way, there was a cracking sound, and the invisible space was split like a mirror, which was a terrible scene. Tang Feng took a deep breath and did not dare to neglect, because the attack came too fast, so he could only protect his hands in front of him. Bang! Level 5 strength is the difference between heaven and earth. Even if Tang Feng tried his best to resist it, it was useless. 4.7 He brutally and rudely tore the disaster shield, and then his body was torn into a few pieces. Behind him, a cross-claw mark tore the ground in the distance, and the end could not be seen with the naked eye. Zzzz, a few light sounds sounded, and I saw Tang Feng's torn body. He was turning into an elemental appearance, reintegrated, and soon returned to his original state. HMPH, the characteristic of energy. I have waited for a long time, this time you are really finished. Dracula has lived for a long time. He has seen what kind of enemy and what kind of strange power. He was already prepared, and condensed a dark sphere that far exceeded 10 meters in advance, and violently threw it at Tang Feng. In his view, elementalization is the energy body, and it is possible to use the dark power of the same energy nature to counteract the calamity to consume the energy nature of the body, so that Tang Feng can truly be killed. Chapter 97 Resurrection. Dracula really encountered a mutant who can energize his body and also understands the means to kill. Based on past experience, he believes that the dark sphere can definitely kill Tang Feng. The huge dark sphere completely buried Tang Feng inside, and the power exploded and burst open. It was obviously a dark force, but it seemed to shine with a dazzling light. A circle of invisible shock waves, like the scene of a nuclear bomb explosion, spread out directly. It spread out and destroyed everything. In this regard, Dracula has long prepared. The figure flashes, and the person has appeared thousands of meters away. This is the ability to teleport, which is more convenient than flashing. There is no need to open the space channel. As long as you know the location, you can teleport to it. When the dark power dissipated, I saw a huge crater where Tang Feng was located. It was 100 meters deep and 1,000 meters in diameter. Such destructive power was the result of Dracula's special control of the dark power and concentrated on dealing with Tang Feng. There is also a reason for Tang Feng's calamity consumption, which greatly reduces the destructiveness of the dark sphere. If you really want to play it, the destructive power of the dark sphere will be stronger, all the way to the center of the earth. You can destroy the planet. After all, it is a 5th level power. The pitter-pattering groundwater gushed out from the bottom of the giant pit, and Tang Feng's figure disappeared. As if he had disappeared into the world, Dracula stood at the edge of the huge pit, and his astonishing eyesight allowed him to see the entire bottom of the pit, without seeing any trace of Tang Feng at all. He had reason to believe that the dark sphere was the elemental body that completely wiped out Tang Feng and killed him. Therefore, he couldn't help but relax, and quickly stood in place, closed his eyes, and concentrated his mind to suppress the bat plague in his body again. Suddenly, he was keenly aware of something. He opened his eyes in disbelief, stunned, and seemed unwilling to believe. The sizzling sound continued to appear above the giant pit. First, a trace of dark red energy appeared out of thin air, and then the dark red energy symbolizing the power of disaster gathered more and more. Just like weaving a human figure, the dark red calamity is like an invisible brush stroke, building Tang Feng's body bit by bit. Tang Feng raised his head to the sky, closed his eyes, suspended in the air, and never fell, as if he was asleep, until he opened his eyes and the child of disaster recovered again. Because the body was completely destroyed and resurrected again, all the previous clothes turned into ashes, That is to say, I'm dead, resurrected again. As soon as he woke up and his dazed eyes returned to clarity, Tang Feng muttered to himself, full of excitement and terror. He finally remembered the scene before his death. Under the annihilation of the dark sphere, the power of the 5th level, with his strength of the 4th level, could not resist at all. He was really annihilated to death. However, he has already completed the transformation of the catastrophe. He is both a human and a monster formed by a massive catastrophe. From then on, if the calamity is not extinguished, he will not die. In this way, even if he is killed, because from this planet, the source of the disaster constantly absorbs the power of the disaster, as well as the power of the natural disaster in the shadows, and continues to support Tang Feng's power, making him condense the power of the disaster again. Body reunited. That is resurrection. What kind of monster are you? How can you not kill? Dracula screamed in horror, flapped his wings and flew in front of Tang Feng. He didn't want to believe it. Even if it is him, no matter how strong the regeneration ability is, he will still die if his body is annihilated. But Tang Feng will not die like this. In comparison, I feel that Tang Feng is more like a monster than him. You are right. No matter how many times you kill me, I can resurrect on the spot. Tang Feng put his hands on his hips and said with a proud smile, "No, I don't believe it. Even if you are resurrected again, you definitely won't feel better. If you are killed again, you will definitely be killed." Dracula shouted frantically. He saw the paleness on Tang Feng's face that couldn't be concealed, and shouted out the guess in his heart. "Oh, then you can try it, but, looking at you like that, can you still make big moves?" Tang Feng was non-committal. He looked up and down at the bragging Dracula and pouted. Dracula guessed right. Even if he was resurrected, there was a price. Tang Feng was suffering from a splitting headache. It should be because his soul was traumatized and it would take a while to recover. If he were to be killed again, even if he could be resurrected, it wouldn't be so fast. At least wait for a period of time, when the soul's injuries are almost healed, and then the calamity can be gathered to resurrect. During this period of the resurrection process, he was like a saint who integrated into the path of heaven. On this planet, as long as there was a disaster, there would be his presence, as if it were everywhere, but also as if there was no trace. Self-consciousness will be chaotic. Without thoughts, it clearly exists, but it knows nothing and cannot interfere, and it is not until after the resurrection that the consciousness can gather. This kind of taste is not good. If possible, Tang Feng really does not want to experience another death. Tang Feng's condition was not good, and Dracula was not much better either. He had just finished his last move and was busy suppressing the bat plague in his body, so he could not use his extra strength to fight the enemy. Since he wanted to kill Tang Feng earlier, he relaxed the suppression of the bat plague, which had already caused the bat plague to go deep to the edge of endangering the core of life. Let it go, unless he wants to die. In this way, Dracula had a headache and was very embarrassed. After hesitating for a while, he finally did not dare to take the risk. He looked at Tang Feng and said reluctantly, "It's good luck for you. Wake up from the dream and I will see you again." He is a vampire and has a long life. Tang Feng is a mutant. If he doesn't have the ability to live long, he only has a short life of 100 years, so he is not sure whether he will be able to see Tang Feng, the enemy, the next time he recovers from a deep sleep. After he finished speaking, 907 flapped his wings, turned around, and was about to fly away. "Do you want to go? Ask me if I am." Tang Feng shouted loudly and shot to stop him. Even if he died again, he would not let Dracula, the archenemy, go. The first is to launch a man-made disaster. With Dracula's current weak state and the problem of the bat plague, the ability of the man-made disaster is enough to affect him. Dracula flight's posture froze. His face was ashen, his wings clenched for no reason, and the dark power in his body suddenly stirred, and he did not suppress the bat plague in time. If he was not careful, the bat plague almost invaded his heart. He hurriedly concentrated on suppressing the bat plague and felt his body sinking. It turned out that Tang Feng was jumping on him. He did not use any means, he just hugged him tightly, and the calamity broke out, trying to let the calamity destroy his body. With a calamity outside and a threat of a plague of bats inside, Dracula felt the threat of death. "Lunatic, let me go, do you? Do you really want to die again?" Dracula struggled hard, but Tang Feng's physical condition had improved a lot, and he was always entangled in him, but he did not break free. "HMPH, just don't let go, kill me again if you have the ability, and see if you die or I die." Tang Feng gritted his teeth, refused to let go, roared, and the calamity erupted without reservation, completely covering him and Dracula. From a distance, it looks like a huge burning torch. Chapter 98. The little black spot in the moonlight. I feel so useless and want to kill a strong enemy, like the protagonist of a third-rate plot. Only by stalking the enemy can I kill him. Tang Feng hugged Dracula tightly and used calamity to annihilate his body. He thought strangely and complained to himself, "Hateful mutant." Dracula screamed in horror. One side was the erosion of the catastrophic force, and the other side was the bat plague in the body, and there were deadly threats outside and inside the body. If you relax the suppression of the bat plague and gather strength, whether it is to push Tang Feng away or to teleport away, even if it is only a short moment, the bat plague in the body will take the opportunity to penetrate deep into the heart, brain, and never again. There is no hope of survival. If you continue to suppress the bat plague, you will not be able to draw strength, and it will be impossible to break free from Tang Feng's entanglement. You can only let the force of disaster destroy his body and eventually die. Both options are death. There is no way out. Suddenly, Dracula came to his senses, reluctantly gave up the useless struggle, regained his calm, and coldly looked at Tang Feng in front of him. "New generation mutant, tell me, what is your name?" Tang Feng was stunned for a moment, not understanding whether Dracula's abnormal behavior was resignation or the calm that broke out before his death. He still hugged himself tightly and said with vigilance, "My name is Tang Feng." "Tang Feng, I remember you. You are the second and one of the strongest mutants I have ever seen. I didn't expect that it was because of you that I would die." 39. I'm really unhappy. Dracula sighed up to the sky. His face was desolate, and he thought of the reckless past, the scene of the fight with Apocalypse, and the figure of the Elder, who was aloof, arrogant, and domineering to suppress him. Finally, it is Tang Feng's appearance. Hey, what do you want to do?" When Tang Feng saw Dracula's nostalgia, his body began to swell, as if he was about to explode, and he hurriedly exclaimed, "What? Isn't it obvious? I have no way to live, so don't think about it, just die with me Tilda." I gathered all my strength and blew it up. Such a strong power will blow you to pieces again. Although I don't know if you can be resurrected again, this is the choice I can make now. 35. Dracula sighed helplessly, really unwilling, and finally raised his head nostalgically, looked at the moon, and prepared to explode. Boom. The sound of breaking eggs came out clearly. Dracula's body froze. His face was ashen and terrifying. He looked at Tang Feng with wide eyes, and his self-destruction couldn't help but stop. "Don't blame me, you will die when you die, and I don't want to die with you again." Tang Feng bowed his head, embarrassed to face Dracula's gaze. If he could, he wouldn't want to use such a rude method. It might be the aftermath of tormenting Stryker, watching Dracula explode, and kicking him. Taking advantage of the rare opportunity, Tang Feng violently pushed Dracula away, gritted his teeth, his face became ruthless, and the calamity boiled violently and exploded. Moreover, his body is also full of calamity. In order to prevent the lack of power, he took the initiative to explode his two arms. The powerful power formed together, between Tang Feng and Dracula, exploded a strong shock wave, pushing the two away. "No!" Dracula screamed and roared. His self-destruction could not be stopped, and because of the agitation of the dark power, he was unable to use teleport temporarily. He could only watch Tang Feng far away, and then self-destructed. In the air, a loud explosion was heard in the distance, and the scene of the explosion was astonishing, comparable to the explosion of an atomic bomb. The powerful shock wave caused circles of invisible waves to appear, and the clouds in the sky were swept away on the spot. For a long time, Dracula's self-destruction stopped. The sound of cracking came from the sandy underground. A dark red hand stretched out from the ground, and then Tang Feng's head, the whole body, finally solved Dracula. Tang Feng lay weakly on the ground and did not want to move at all. His elemental body returned to its original state. Fortunately, he can elementalize and avoid the center of the explosion. Even if the body is swept away, the calamity is lost to most, and finally, a life is restored, and there is no need to resurrect. The moon is so beautiful tonight. The strong enemy has been resolved, and the tense body and mind have been relaxed. Even if the current state is not good, it is still very embarrassing. Tang Feng is also in the mood to appreciate the moon. Suddenly, his face frowns, as if he saw a small black spot flying from the distant sky under the moonlight. Even if it can be elementalized, he feels the familiar breath of death, which is attacking him. This is... Tang Feng opened his eyes subconsciously, struggled to sit up, and watched carefully. When the small black spot approached, he could finally see clearly with his eyesight after the body transformation. Hey, this is a nuclear bomb. Judging from the size, the performance is not small. This is the bastard who dares to throw a nuclear bomb at me. Tang Feng gasped and cursed angrily. Vertical bar. Oops, I'm running out of time. I have to call Flash. He hurriedly searched his body, and when he touched it, it was empty. There was nothing, not even any clothes. The communicator had long been destroyed. With a bitter smile, he shook his head and recovered from the panic of the nuclear bomb. Even if he had a communicator, the nuclear bomb had already reached his head. My head still hurts, but I can't help it. The moment the nuclear bomb explodes, it may completely destroy my elemental body. Just like the power of the dark sphere, the energy consumption will make me die again. I don't want to die again, waiting for resurrection. I can only borrow the method of natural disasters. Even if the soul is seriously injured, it can slowly recover, but the recovery time is a bit longer. Roar! Tang Feng gritted his teeth, straightened up, and raised his head to face the falling nuclear bomb. With the destructive power of natural disasters, it was not easy for Nuozhan to control it. Even if it is the gravitational force from the center of the earth, he can only arrogantly attract the nuclear bomb and detonate it on the spot. There was no time to think about it, so I had to borrow the natural disaster that best suited the current situation. It is up to you to decide. Temporal chaos. Tang Feng believed that he could survive just by borrowing a little temporal chaotic power to avoid the most intense period of the nuclear bomb explosion. This was how it was considered and done. Although the power of temporal chaos is very dangerous, if you don't pay attention, it will cause global temporal chaos and even affect the entire universe. But you can't care so much. I'm just borrowing a bit of power. 99. Tang Feng comforted himself in his heart, thinking that he had always had a strong curiosity about the chaos of natural disasters, and now he finally had an excuse to borrow it from him. With strong curiosity and anticipation, just as he was about to borrow time for the chaos, he suddenly felt that the environment around me suddenly changed. Chapter 99. The old man appears. As the surrounding environment changed, a bald figure dressed in black appeared in front of Tang Feng. Please stop, son of disaster, the power of time cannot be moved lightly. 99. This is a very magnetic voice, and it also tends to be neutral, and it is impossible to tell whether it is a man or a woman just by the voice. Tang Feng's eyes flickered. He gave up borrowing the chaotic power of time from the natural disaster, and looked around. A very wrong feeling, looking up at the moon in the sky again. The crescent moon is obviously different from before. It is the opposite. The positions of the stars are also reversed. The feeling for Tang Feng is like looking at the scene reflected in the mirror. According to the characteristics of the black-clothed bald man who suddenly appeared, plus the power to oppress him, and this strange phenomenon, Tang Feng immediately guessed that this is a mirror world. The black-clothed bald man in front of him, if nothing else, is the ancient sorcerer supreme. It didn't take long to think about this. The nuclear bomb outside had just exploded, but Tang Feng, who was standing in the mirror world, was completely Tang Feng. He pretended not to know and asked cautiously, "Son of disaster, stop pretending. I have passed through the river of time and I know you very well. You have always known of my existence and have a good understanding of this so-called Marvel world." The elder, the bald man in black robe, calmly said something that surprised Tang Feng. Tang Feng's pupils tightened and he took a few steps back. His expression was very surprised, as if he had a secret, and he felt guilty that he was suddenly discovered. She knows. Tang Feng shouted loudly in his heart. How to do it? Immediately afterwards, this was his subconscious thought. The elder knew the deepest secret, even Linger and Lisa didn't know, which made him want to kill people. So, he reacted and it seemed that he couldn't kill him. Wait, the elder already knew my secret of the time gem's power. Why doesn't he kill me before my awakening ability to maintain the stability of the Marvel world? Hey, that's not right. In the original book, the elder already knew that he would die, but he still chose to die, proving that he obeyed the arrangement of fate and would not violate the so-called providence. 5. That is to say, in the elder's view, my appearance is an arrangement of fate. That's why he has been ignoring me, until this moment. In order to avoid the nuclear bomb, I had to borrow the power of temporal chaos, and the elder appeared. Tang Feng quickly calmed down, guessed a lot, and asked tentatively, since you know so much about me, what do you think of me? The elder looked deeply at Tang Feng, smiled lightly, and said, no idea. You can appear in this world, there will be a reason for your appearance. All things have their own laws, and they are all arranged by fate. Hearing this, Tang Feng's tense body and mind relaxed. He understood Ancient One's words very well. 1. That is, he can do whatever he needs, as long as he doesn't destroy the world. He will treat him as an ordinary person. So, you also know the differences in the Marvel world. How do you feel about your own existence, knowing that Ancient One would not attack him? Tang Feng felt relieved and thought about this question. He looked at Ancient One cautiously, asked in a diplomatic tone, what's the difference? Are you saying that the Marvel universe is fake, the so-called parallel universe, the cinematic universe? Ridiculous. I heard a saying, I think, therefore I exist. As long as my thoughts and cognitions are believed to be true, then my existence is undoubtedly true. Denying them is just asking for trouble. You doubt your own proof of existence. Even if you are in the so-called real world, are you sure that you are real? What proof do you have? Just like the world you have been reborn in, are you sure that it is the real world? The elder shook his head and smiled, and said something very philosophical. Tang Feng's face was stunned and he couldn't help but think, yes, if the reality of the Marvel world is denied, his past life will surely be true. If it is, the real world, will he be reborn? If it's not true, then I'm reborn in the Marvel world. Did someone fix it? Me. Is it real or fake? The more he thought about it, the more scared Tang Feng became. All kinds of random thoughts couldn't be suppressed and kept pouring out. Have you figured it out yet? The elder's words interrupted Tang Feng's thoughts. He raised his head blankly. Seeing the elder's always calm expression, he suddenly calmed down. I remembered what the elder said before. Cogito ergo sum. Tang Feng muttered to himself, chuckled softly, then put a hand on his forehead, laughing wildly, and realized, yes, you're right. No matter what the world is, I am who I am. What I think, do, and see, everything about him, everyone he meets, is true. So, this world is real. I think too much, but instead I look for trouble and deny my own existence. After he finished speaking, he opened his hands and took a deep breath. He felt completely relieved of his worries and felt alive again. You can figure it out. The elder looked at Tang Feng in admiration. Although he knew he would figure it out eventually, he didn't expect to figure it out so quickly and no longer deny his existence. Then, he reached out and looked to the side. A circle of light appeared. He reached in, took out a black robe from the other side, and threw it to Tang Feng, saying, although I don't care, but you should put it on. After all, you can't always. 99. Tang Feng's expression was stagnant and his body was stiff. Since Ancient One suddenly appeared, ignored the past and finally noticed it. He looked down at my mother. It turned out that she had been talking to Ancient One like this all the time. At this moment, Tang Feng seemed to have the speed of a sprinter. He learned a quick way to dress without a teacher. His body became elemental and dissipated. Just put on the black robe, cough. Thank you. Tang Feng's shy face was flushed and he felt awkward. No matter what the existence of Ancient One was, He was still in a state of shock. 1. It was a very, very embarrassing thing, not to mention that Ancient One is still a woman. That's right, although his voice is neutral and he is still bald, his appearance, as well as the ups and downs in front, clearly show that Ancient One is a woman. How embarrassing. Tang Feng covered his face with one hand and sighed in his heart. He must have gotten used to it because he focused on fighting and didn't think about anything else when he fought Dracula before. This fact shows that in fact, everyone has the idea of getting rid of the shackles of the cloths and being open and honest. As he thought, he nodded and found a reason to comfort himself. Okay, come with me. Seeing Tang Feng embarrassed to face her, Ancient One opened the portal with a smile, gesturing to follow. Where are you taking me? Tang Feng touched his nose and asked in confusion. Camartage. Chapter 100. The Elder's Purpose. Camartage, hidden in the Himalayas, is the most powerful magic force on the planet, and it has always shouldered the responsibility of maintaining the safety of the planet and resisting invasion from different dimensions. Compared with the superhero who fights evil villains one by one and protects only a part of human beings, the wizards of Camartage are older. They have always protected the entire planet, and they have done good deeds without leaving their names, and they have been incognito, so that no one knows. Even with the most powerful agent organization in the world, Nick Fury, the one-eyed dragon, it is not very clear, only that there are some mysterious wizards hidden in the world. In Tang Feng's view, the wizards of Camartage are a group of good people who have contributed silently and deserve his respect, especially the ancient sorcerer supreme, proficient in time and space magic, also controls 99% of the world's magic, worthy of the name of sorcerer supreme. It was she who supported the prestige of Camartage with one person, protected the planet with the power of one person, and made Odin, who called himself the King of God, unwilling to interfere too much in human affairs. Even in the universe, the reputation of the Supreme Sorcerer Elder spread far and wide, and Camartage, which she established, became one of the most powerful magic forces in the universe. This is her strength, and with it, there is Camartage, and there is peace and tranquility on this planet. Tang Feng thought of Elder, and admired and envied him. He didn't know when he could achieve such a great reputation. Even in the vast and boundless universe, his reputation will always spread. It is not easy to do this. It took a long time for Elder, plus the strength of the top 5, to obtain such a great reputation. In an ancient building complex with an oriental style and full of historical vicissitudes, Tang Feng followed Elder to the mysterious Camartage. Along the way, I encountered quite a few magicians. Everyone looked at Tang Feng in astonishment and then respectfully saluted Ancient One. Ancient One nodded casually, led Tang Feng straight to the old house where she lived, waved her hand to let Tang Feng sit down, and she began to take out the tea set, the best tea leaves, and calmly brew the tea. For a moment, the house was quiet. In this atmosphere, Tang Feng was not in a hurry to ask anything. He sat quietly, with a smile on his lips. His body and mind were very relaxed, and he experienced a rare peace and tranquility. Please. 55. After making the tea like running water, Ancient One poured tea for Tang Feng himself and raised his hand. Good tea. Tang Feng held the teacup in both hands, first took a sip, his eyes lit up, and then drank it, only to feel a clear current flowing through his heart and lungs, as if it could calm all irritable emotions and make people feel at peace. Even the head that has been suffering from a splitting headache, feels that the pain is a little lighter. He doesn't know how to taste tea, but for the tea made by the Elder, he really thinks it is a good tea. The quality of tea is not the most important thing. The tea brewing technique is also secondary, and the most important thing is the state. 55. You just sense my realm and think it tastes good. In fact, the tea I made is not much better than the good tea in the outside world. The Elder smiled slightly and said softly, Realm? Okay, don't tell me about the realm of making tea. I'm just a layman and can't understand the realm you spoke of. Tell me, what do you bring me to Camartage? Tang Feng shook his head and chuckled, put down the teacup and said sternly. He couldn't understand, since the Elder treated him equally and had no ill intentions, after preventing him from using the natural disaster time chaos. he should leave by himself and he didn't need to bring him back. You should know that Kamartaj has always forbidden outsiders from entering. There is no sufficient reason. Even the elder will not easily bring outsiders in. Even if Tang Feng's identity is special, it is no exception. Therefore, Tang Feng knew that the elder brought him to Kamartaj. There must be his reasons. Who said that you are a layman? According to your level, you are already a planet overlord, and you are not far from the universe overlord level powerhouse. 39 If you are like this, you should not be a layman. You must understand the realm I mentioned, so that you can be worthy of your power. The elder answered the question, and then poured tea for Tang Feng himself, with a zen tone. You mean that my realm is not worthy of my strength? Like a child holding a gun, hurting others and hurting himself? Tang Feng understood. He was very annoyed and looked down on people. He believes that the control of the force of the disaster and the natural disaster have gradually been controlled, not like the elder said. Yes, that's it, you will not use your power. 35 The elder simply nodded, with an unquestionable look. Joke. Who said I wouldn't use my own power? Calamities, all kinds of disasters and natural disasters, I have always used them very well, even if it is the blood god and Dracula. He did not kill me in the end. 0 pound What I'm lacking is that I can't control the power as finely as you. It just takes time. Tang Feng raised his hand, and the calamity emerged. Under his control, the calamity was either round or flat, and its shape was unstable, and he was not convinced. This is a harsh control, and even the weakest Kamartaj mage is much stronger than you in terms of control. The elder looked away from the force of disaster with a blank face and said rudely. Tang Feng was a little embarrassed. He wanted to use the power of disaster to form a long and flexible snake, but he formed a fat snake and still couldn't control it. He silently retracted the power of disaster and was no longer embarrassed. 0 Those mages are better than me because you have taught them and they know how to exert control. I just explored it by myself. Ever since I first awakened, I destroyed clothes, and now I can control the form of disaster. With such a huge improvement in just 3 or 4 months, I believe I am no worse than others. Tang Feng replied sadly, for me, your progress is still too slow. If you have my teaching, you will progress faster. The elder calmly stated the purpose. Are you going to teach me? Tang Feng opened his eyes subconsciously and looked stunned. He didn't expect the elder to have this idea. He didn't doubt whether the elder was qualified or not, even if the force of disaster was not a magical power. With the elder's knowledge, he was definitely qualified to teach him. Yes, I want to teach you. Your power is too dangerous, not only the force of disasters, but also all kinds of disasters, or so-called natural disasters. Once released, it will spread to a large area. It can affect a region at the light level, or the entire planet at a severe level, and if it is more severe, it may cause the death of the entire human race. In my opinion, you are a time bomb that will destroy the planet at any time. So, for my peace of mind and for yourself, I ask you to stay for a while and learn to control your own power. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.